Happy Batman Day, everyone. This is Comics from the Multiverse, episode 2.
Is it really Batman Day?
I think it is.
Yeah. No, it is. And I'm annoyed. I also hate Pete because I was going to do that.
Oh, don't worry. I've got something about his team getting booted out of the season in a minute. Don't worry. There's more to come.
He doesn't even know the terminology.
Yeah, no. Was it playoffs? Was that what happened?
They got fired.
They lost. They're losers. The Golden Knights are losers. There's one true knight, and the Golden Knights are losers. Okay,
I do know Pete. Yes. Pete knew that he kicked the bear and might have been missing a leg because he did not fight me the other night. I was like, bro, tonight's not the night. And he's like, okay, Tyler set me up to that and sold him up automatically.
Oh yeah, he did because I was streaming and he came out and she goes, oh, by the way, Dallas just beat the Knights and now they're out of the playoffs or whatever.
Yeah, a little bit unfortunate. Some poor refereeing
decisions,
you know.
Yeah. All right.
But that's sports.
This is our DC Comics podcast, believe it or not.
You don't. I always say this. Sometimes people ask why you watch bad movies sometimes, and it's like, well, if you don't know what's bad, then you can't appreciate the good, right? If the team's always good, you know, and you don't ever have disappointment, yeah, then you become entitled, and nobody likes entitled sports fans. Looking at you,
I get it. I got to watch my football team on TV. For the first time in like 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was special.
Okay, all right. Enough of the sports talk, all right? We're celebrating the end of the sports talk on this show for quite some time. So
oh no, it's football season. I'm gonna have some hot Rams takes.
No.
I can't join in, but I'll support you all the way.
This is episode 219. I double checked. This is our DC Comics podcast. And coming up on this week's show, we will be discussing the mammoth-sized Detective Comics 1027, also Batman 99. So, it's good for Bat Day, I suppose, right? You got both Detective and Batman.
Probably intentional to release them this week. At least, 1027.
Well, I put it the other way around. They probably intentionally picked Batman Day to match this week.
Could have done, yeah.
But also Justice League 53, Catwoman 25, which is back in the mix because it's got a new writer, so we thought we'd give it a look. And then Connor's going to do a Patreon book. He claims it's Red Hood 48, but he's not 100% sure that was the number.
I'll double check when I get there. It was definitely Red Hood. I know that much. And it was 40-something.
It was 40-something.
So with the lack of a lot of comics this week, I didn't finish. I'm almost finished with West Coast Avengers. And I finally got to meet Jeff the Land Shark. And it's almost over, so I'm very upset.
That's I remember that feeling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So and they just got to vampires, and I'm like, what happened to this book, Marvel?
Oh yeah, I saw the last two issues.
Good.
Yeah. At the end.
Like, it's very disappointing.
It was very sudden as well. I remember finding out it was cancelled and we only had like one issue left. Like
Marvel do that. Like there was a book recent. I think it was the last Doctor Strange book, which was it's a fairly noble character. It was written by Wade as well. Mm-hmm. They didn't actually tell anyone it was cancelled until issue 6 came out, and then at the back in the letters page, it was like, "Well, that was the last issue. Thanks for joining us." I was like, wait, what?
It was that thing where they then put final issue in the solicit, so by the time we knew it wasn't coming, it was like, okay, maybe it's just taking a month off. And then by the time you realise it's not just 1 month off, there's only one issue left to come out. That was the gist of it.
This one was slightly different. Obviously, 6 was originally solicited a while back, and then there was the break, and then the staggered release. So they hadn't solicited issue 7, but it didn't seem that weird at the time until you got to the end of 6, and they were like, oh, that's the end of it.
Yeah.
But so I read through that, and Jeff the Land Shark, and now I don't know where to go for more Kate, because I think I've read just about all the Kate stuff. I think the Lemire, she's in Lemire's Hawkeye, right?
I never read Lemire's Hawkeye.
Huh.
Yeah, me neither.
Shoot.
I don't think
but I've almost read every Kate thing I can at this point, so
you're waiting for the TV show now at this point. You're like,
yeah, I'm getting sad because now it's also I've read most of the Laura stuff. I mean, not all of it. I'm not going to go back through the non-Taylor stuff. But I read the Taylor, the Tamaki.
There's all the pre-Wolverine stuff, basically, that you have.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to go through all that. That's a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a lot.
If I get desperate enough.
Maybe there's a good run in there. So maybe someone can recommend a good X-23 run.
I've heard mixed things about the Wolverines story that sold it. Right after Wolverine died.
Oh yeah, I've heard good things about the old X-23 title. But, you know,
I did. I have that trade, her first story, not the first appearance from NYX, but the story that they kind of used for Logan.
Yeah.
In there, I did read that, but yeah, so that means I can finally catch up on Immortal Hulk now, and Captain America, and Avengers,
Cool.
which is good. But it's the end of the Marvel section that I really liked, the young heroes. Laura and Gabby, and Kate, and
because they kept canceling their books. That's what.
yeah,
I feel like that's true of both companies right now. That they're kind of in a bit of limbo with the younger heroes. I know obviously Young Justice is going right now, but not for much longer.
Yeah.
Teen Titans. I don't know if that's actually coming to an end. I can't remember.
No, it's just cancelled. Yeah, Teen Titans, Young Justice are both cancelled.
So it's well, they've got to show up somewhere, right?
We hope so.
They do this though. I mean, just like when I was introduced to Teen Titans, it was the John's team that was made up of the blown up Young Justice and Wolfman Teen Titans. So
it's this converging thing where the further we go in time, the more and more that unless you're one of the big characters, you can't sustain an ongoing book for longer than 12, maybe 20 issues, and that seems to be becoming more and more the case as we go on.
Yeah, I admit that's why I enjoyed Batman the Outsider so much, because sure, Batman's in there, but it really wasn't his book. And so the fact that you got that many, it reminded me of Checkmate or the Outsiders book from before, that were these weird niche corners of the DCU, that don't have to have a main character.
Like, I'm genuinely worried that there might not be a new Batgirl book when they relaunch some stuff, because there might not be, but that might be below the line now.
I think there will be something Batgirl. I think they've got too many Batgirls not to be a Batgirl of some sort,
or even a Birds of Prey featuring Batgirl.
Yeah, there'll be something where I don't know. I can't say it'll definitely be a Barbara Gordon book, but or maybe it will be in the Birds of Prey capacity. But there'll be something.
That was just an example. It's just an example of something that I'm feeling is maybe just slightly below that line now, where they can only sustain ongoings for certain characters.
Looking at the kind of people that are in charge now, and they came from the young adult side of things, I definitely think that they think of anthology styles differently, whereas it kind of used to be, because that's what you do with the young adult stuff. Like, it's kind of in its own zone.
I wonder if that'll, in direct terms of this conversation, if those people being in charge will bring in a little bit of bias of, hey, we like the young adult stuff, and that's what they've been working on. Maybe we'll get some more of these younger heroes, and I'm kind of including Batgirl in that because it fits in with those characters a lot, even though she's often a bit older.
Yeah, when I say the younger heroes, I mean they're the ones that are just below the Justice League level. I even throw a Nightwing, even though he's almost
borderline
at this point. But he was part of that first team of Titans and stuff. Set it right there. Okay. Sorry, I had to have a coffee delivery.
Yeah, we'll just all pause for Matt to have his coffee delivery.
Yeah,
we're all just like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's fine. Anyways, and Wally was in that, and then you have a level kind of below them, and that's kind of who we are referring to.
I'm going to
very DC.
Just to sort of bring this back around to Batman, I'm going to read you an inspirational tweet here from someone
trying to get away from
about Batman on this day of Bat, the day of the night. Batman is all of us. He is our rage at injustice. He stands. Oh, my phone turned off. he stands alone. That's what you get. As we all wish we could, in the face of a corrupt system which wishes to oppress and exploit. He is that broken child, searching the dark alleys of the human soul to bring balance to the world. Hashtag Batman Day. From Zack Snyder. All right.
I knew it. I could tell just from the tone.
Yeah. I posted a tweet yesterday. I took a picture of a paragraph from Grant Morrison's Supergods book, which I'm rereading because it's fantastic. And it's been a few years. And I posted, a paragraph, and he basically talks about how, there's this idea that people think that, kids struggle telling, fiction from reality. That's why you can't, you're not allowed to do like, really violent stuff in a lot of kids' cartoons, for example. And it's like, no, kids just no, it's fine. The example goes, child knows that the the crabs on the beach don't talk or sing like the cartoon crabs in The Little Mermaid. They can accept all these things. Adults, on the other hand, have this desperate need to make it fit into the real world. And and he goes, and the answers, why of all this is really obvious to any child. As how can Superman fly? How can Batman possibly run a multi-billion-dollar business empire during the day and fight crime at night? And the answer is obvious, even to the smallest child, because it's not real.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, as a continuity retcon type nerd, I like when they get to the minutia, right?
No, there's a difference though. But
I didn't like that stuff as a kid. I liked Superman flying. I never thought about how he did it. He flew because he was Superman.
Just because, right? Yeah. And I think that certain filmmaker whose name I don't want to mention yet again. Maybe should have read this book.
Honestly, I would like to actually just send a formal complaint to Twitter for recommending me that tweet. Like,
Yeah.
Every day there'll at least be a half a dozen notifications from Twitter saying, "Hey, maybe you'll be interested in this tweet," and I'm like, "Go away!" If it's not someone that's actually notifying me about something, if it's not like an at or someone has replied to me, I don't want to see it. Stop pestering me.
Do you get it as an actual notification?
Yeah, that's what that was. That's why I saw it.
The only time I get those are for actual like news update tweets.
Yeah,
where
me
it'll be
too.
like, no, this is news, so we're gonna let you know in a notification. But that's about
there was
it.
an earthquake in California that I got when I woke up this morning. I got a notification for via Twitter. So, yeah. Anyways, that man does not understand Batman. So I will take
Amongst
that
many
and
other
say,
things.
Yeah. Yeah. God, that makes me mad. Slash Film tweeted a thing where someone tried to take his words and twist them. That he said that the certain cut wasn't happening because they have to give so much more. Like, he didn't say it wasn't happening. He said it wasn't done. Like, it wasn't just going to be released. And someone tried to use those words and go, "See, you were wrong." He's like, "How was I wrong? I said exactly."
I think I saw this. The guy tweeted a year or two ago, whatever it was, going.
It was earlier in the year.
It was earlier
Right
this
before the
year.
announcement.
Just saying, hey, Snyder Bros, just calm down. Look, the film, it's not ready. It's not there.
Right.
It's not ready without tens of millions of dollars to finish it. It's not just going to be released like that. And then it, one of them quote tweeted going, tweets that aged badly. It's like, did it though?
It was
No,
accurate.
It's literally taking tens of millions of dollars to finish and isn't ready.
On HBO Max.
It was extremely accurate. In fact, it was more accurate than any tweet maybe has any right to be accurate.
Yeah. So like, so the fact that these people are going to that, and that's the view they want. Like, just, I'm ready for it to be done. Like, it's.
Do you know what I will say is, Pete had me concerned now, so I thought I'll click on the hashtag Batman Day bit on the side of Twitter.
No.
See what shows up. No, I'm really happy. The first thing was a Tom Taylor tweet. The
Okay.
second was Matt Reeves.
Okay.
And the third was the good Snyder, Scott. And then Jim Lee. So it didn't show up immediately at all. I'm having to scroll, and it's just not there.
Yeah. Speaking of the Snyder confusion, I remember when they first showed footage at Comic-Con of BVS, and people kept quoting Zack Snyder as Scott Snyder, and I got very confused because I'm just reading the tweets, and I'm like, wait, Scott Snyder's there? Like, and yeah, it was real bad. It was the race to be first, so they weren't double checking things, and yeah. Well, that's good, Connor. That makes me happy. Like, every time I think that I'm over my deep resent of Batman, Batman Day shows up and reminds me, nope.
Well, we can cure that today by talking about Batman a lot. So,
yeah. I do want to thank Connor for pointing out to me, because I would have forgot to get Justice League, because my shop, ever since I took it off my list, my shop doesn't order as many, so I did not get it physically.
Yeah, he tweeted saying all his books were Batman related, including Catwoman, obviously. I was like, hey, Justice League's out.
Hey.
Oh yeah.
Hey, a main character that is Nightwing, so technically, I mean, it could have fit.
It's true. But I didn't know that at the time. I looked into it. I was just, hey, that's there.
So anyway, before we get to it, also we do have some news to look at first before we get to the books this week. So they actually teased like another thing this for January, because we were expecting news from fandom last week and none of it really came. But one of the stories in Detective Comics kind of set this up, but we'll sort of talk about it on its own here, and then we'll mention. Obviously, we'll get to the story in the story, but basically, we have a thing for January called DC Future State, and specifically an issue called Generation Shattered. Oh, sorry, that was the one shot from before.
That's the bit in
but that's Generations Future State issue 1. Sorry, which is coming in January. So they have remolded whatever Generations was into this new thing. That's which I mean I didn't think we were going to get another Generations thing again, but clearly we are.
No.
Just to tie into this, the very end of last week, we were looking for breaking news, and there was Jim Lee saying, "Oh, 5G is not happening," which was obviously the headline. What he actually said was a little bit more detailed than that. He talked that there's not going to be any, massive relaunch of all these books at once. They're not planning that at all. He mentioned, we'll be building up books one by one organically. Which makes me think maybe we're not just going to get a whole slate dropped in 1 month. There'll be like 1 or 2 books here, 1 or 2 there as we go on.
Yeah,
that sounds about right. I mean, it's funny because I think we want the excitement of the slate, but I mean that's the way they're going.
With a couple of new books every month.
I was waiting for Matt to say something. All right.
No. I thought my computer froze. So that's why I stopped.
I thought one of you two froze or something because I said something and then no one just said anything. I was like, what did I do wrong?
Well, everything's the answer to that question.
Well, yeah, that's true. But specifically.
No, I mean, a couple books a month, whatever, it's fine. I think clearly though they're still resetting. They're doing something with Generations to at least establish some continuity stuff. So even if we're not doing the big launch of all these books, they're definitely cleaning up the timeline a little bit with this.
It seems to be because this is a 2-month event. It's January and February, is what the teaser says. I don't know who's involved in it writer-wise. I think we can maybe assume Dan Jurgens, given that he wrote the other bits.
Hey, he's one of the reliable workhorses, so why not?
Yeah, we had a few people on the one shot in December, if I recall, that were, I think Venditti was in there, a few others.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things we said last week, is that we kind of expect a lot of the writers who are on some of the stories in those one shots are possibly going to end up writing those characters in their books.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter Ramvi sharing this image, the tweet with this teaser and doing the shifty eyes. So I wonder if maybe he's involved. I mean, he seems to be getting.
I could see it.
A foot in the door at DC. With between Justice League Dark and now he's taking over Catwoman. Maybe
it is
more like
starting to become one of the regular writers, one of the staples.
Right.
In their books.
I mean, we saw this happen with Tynion, right? Like,
just a book here, a little bit there, and now Tynion's one of their top tier talents, I would say.
Yeah, so DC Future State, which is following on, obviously, it's not directly connected to Endless Winter, but I'm just saying it's following on in the sense that that's our 1 month thing in December, and then Future State's kind of our 2 month thing in January, February. So we do have some stuff to talk about. I assume next month's solicits then are going to be interesting with what the actual book lineup for this is. Is it just a few one-shots, kind of like the one-shots we're getting in December, or is there books tying into it? We'll see, but we'll see that in solicits next month. So that's DC Future State. Next up, we did get our first glimpse at the Viking Justice League, which I wasn't even going to put this in the news, but I thought I'll bring it up. Since
it looks so good, Matt.
I'm excited. No, I've seen it. Also, Talking Superman, he goes, "How come I haven't heard you talk about this?" And I was like, "Oh well, Connor and me talked about it, so it might have been a side chat or whatever."
We just got excited between ourselves.
Yeah. So yeah. What more can I ask for?
Yeah, it's on
Viking
the
looking like a proper Viking, Hippolyta, antlered Swamp Thing, and Black Adam with a full-on Egyptian headdress.
Yeah,
so, like,
it's this image comes from kind of the reading list, the reading order for the Endless Winter event, which is in I know it was in the back of some of the books this week.
It's in DC Connect is where this was taken from, I believe.
Yeah, so it's just a list of the books that obviously were in the solicits last time. I'll just reiterate here, I think it's good to keep this in your heads, since we're building up to it. So the 9 books are Justice League Endless Winter issue 1, The Flash 767, Superman Endless Winter Special Issue 1, Aquaman 66, Justice League 58, Teen Titans Endless Winter Special Issue 1, Justice League Dark 29, Black Adam Endless Winter Special Issue 1, and Justice League Endless Winter Issue. Well, that's meant to be issue 2. That's got a typo.
It's supposed to be issue 2, yeah.
Yeah, the official page from Correct has issue 1 again at the end.
Imagine if issue 1 was part 1 and 9, and you just had to, you got given the start and the end of the story at the beginning, and you just have to wait for all the other pieces.
Yeah, sloppy work, DC. Sloppy work. But hey, so I thought it was worth mentioning that if you want to go and find the image and have a look at these Justice League Vikings. So next up, we got some news about DC Universe, which we were expecting. Jim Lee had teased it. And it's kind of exactly what we said should happen and what a lot of people expected. I kind of didn't expect it, but only because I expected them not to do the obvious thing they should do.
We had it narrowed down to 2 solutions for what they needed to do. I mean, 2 directions along the same path, really.
Yeah, I guess I just expected them to make a mistake, and they actually haven't. So credit where credit is due. It's becoming exactly what we thought it might, which is just their version of Marvel Unlimited. It's switching to 6 months until books get added, rather than the 12 that it has been. It's called DC Universe Infinite. It's going to be available like this from January or February, they said, and then worldwide it'll be available in summer 2021. So all good news, and it's going to be $7.99, and there's going to be some of the digital firsts going there. Are they going there straight away? I think they said.
I think so, and it said it's going to have some exclusive content as well, like exclusive digital firsts.
So they're really treating this like their own like DC comic Netflix, which I guess you could argue Marvel Limited already kind of was, but I think the fact that they're doing some exclusives for it maybe kind of veers it towards
Gives it
that model.
a little bit of an advantage over Marvel's one, which I don't believe has any exclusive content.
Yeah, I don't think so, but that's good.
Only questions I have on this are, it's a bit unclear right now if the subscription you have to DC Universe will just roll over and they'll just rebrand and it'll be the same site, or if it's a whole new thing. You have to, you'll cancel that and then sign up for this. It's a bit unclear on that.
They'll probably just roll it over, I'm sure, because that's a good way to keep
Yeah, I imagine what they'll probably do is they'll send out everyone an email saying, "Hey, we're going to change to this service. You're just going to carry over. So if you want to cancel, do it now. If not, you're in."
And I'm sure they'll work in, since you've been if you have a subscription for so long, I'm sure they'll work something in as incentive to keep going.
Yeah, I'm quite, because obviously I've been subscribed for a while. I just use a VPN to get it. It's fine. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to the international launch because it will give me a price in my currency, and will therefore my card will charge me less in fees.
I also like the idea. I think Pete brought this up, that you never really have to get back issue sales on Comixology.
Yeah,
if they're going to have a lot of DC stuff, then
if you read entirely digitally and you don't buy physical books, once this launches properly, and arguably already, there's really no reason to ever buy a back catalog comic book ever again from DC. You can just have the service and just read it there.
Yeah. I mean, anyone who follows, us me and Pete doing previously in the Multiverse, I read most of the comics from that on DC Universe as of right now. Almost everything's there. This is actually going to have more comics. I don't know if this is just going to be from the 6 months catching up, or if they're going to start adding some Vertigo stuff or whatnot. But because right now it has around 23,000, but it says it will have more than 24,000 at launch. But I don't know if that'll just be, we're going to have to add on 6 months worth of comics at once, essentially, because it'll be going from a year behind to 6 months, and that'll add up enough by then. Who knows?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've been pretty good with if you pay attention to Comixology adding back issues of because obviously there's so many issues of detective and action and stuff like that. Typically when they add them to Comixology, when they've scanned them or remastered them or whatever, they tend to go up in DC Universe around the same time. So
they do, and every week there's always a new on DC Universe tab where you can see what they've added new this week. Obviously, a lot of it is the books from a year ago, but there are always those those new ones. The
like
from
Detective 485 and things, just random numbers,
random
like that.
issues.
Yeah.
Just filling it out, but it's getting more and more complete every week, as is true on Comixology as well in that sense.
Yeah. So one last little bit of news. Obviously, that was big stuff, but we have one last little tidbit, which I know Connor's excited about, which is what Bendis has maybe going to be moving on to after Superman. Now, we don't actually know what it is, but someone did ask him in a tweet, and I thought it was worth mentioning that he said that it was big enough that he wanted to clear, as he put it, his deck. So basically, him going away from Superman books and Young Justice is a concentrated effort because he's taking on some big new project, whether that's 2 or 3 books tied to one thing or whatever. But I thought that was worth mentioning. That it's something that is replacing it. Although he did say that it was months away. It wasn't like it was going to be starting up immediately after
right away
Superman ends. So
I have one other little news story that I want to talk about, and this is like a nothing thing, but it was the funniest news story of the week for me. So we talk about some websites do just terrible headlines for the sake of clicks.
Yeah.
Newsarama, calling you out here. Piece of shit headline. And it was, is the new Batman character Clown Hunter Damian Wayne in disguise? and obviously it was like, come on, really? And their argument was, well, he's just given up being Robin, and the cover from the last solicits with Batman staring down at him, it looks like the height's right. And I'm very glad Tynion just quote tweeted it and just went, no, he isn't, and forced Newsarama to update their own story.
Yeah, I love that, because Tynion's also talked about how Clown Hunter kind of took on mind of its own, in that Clown Hunter was supposed to be the next arc, but he decided to throw him in during the Joker War stuff. So that's why we're getting little bite-sized chunks of them.
Do you know what? I despise the website that shall not be named.
Yes.
But at least they read Tynion's newsletter. I know that because every so often there'll be an article, someone will show me that's on there where it's, hey, Tynion's newsletter just hit. Here's all the information we learned from it, and it will basically just be them copy and pasting in the relevant Batman sections in case you're not subscribed to it.
I mean,
if one of your writers subscribed to comic writers' newsletters and read them, you wouldn't have had to write such a stupid article.
I mean, that's the state of pop culture journalism at this point, right?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Oh well, there we are. That's news. So surprisingly, some interesting things there. The
Generations thing gets me the most, because clearly there was a plan, and they're just going forward with whatever this was supposed to be. And we know that those Frank covers that came out were supposed to be the Generations.
The Generations one-shots, which I believe we were originally expecting 5 of those, or was it 4, and then 5G would be just the new thing?
Maybe, I can't remember.
But it does explain why we thought, well, this doesn't feel like it's a complete image. I was missing one on the end, because if it was at least 4, then there's one more to come somewhere.
And I'm sure there will be, but it's post Death Metal, and I'm sure they kind of want to save that.
Slap it on something in January, I'm sure, as a variant.
Well, I'm sure it'll probably be another one shot that's relevant to what they're doing with the Generation stuff. So it wouldn't just be like, it's not going to be on like Superman 27 or whatever.
I think they were on the metal tie-ins, right? And
they are.
Yeah. So it's all
it
stuff.
Might be on like a metal epilogue issue or something.
It's all stuff related to the continuity being changed or rebuilt.
Shifted.
So
and this is pretty exciting, because like we talk about how it was starting to feel a little stale. Like at this point where we've been used to the whole, New 52 to Rebirth, and now what's next? So, it's kind of exciting that we're getting this, and then something as fun as Endless Winter, and then something new following that, right? So by the time it all catches up. But yeah, I like all this.
Yeah. So, plans changed. We'll see whatever comes out of it come. What?
That was very Meltzer of you. Plans change.
I mean, plans does change. I mean, clearly.
No, I know, but just the way that you said it is how I read it in his voice on Reddit.
Yeah, I wonder like how much of the Generation stuff they actually changed, because obviously it's not leading to 5G, but does that actually change much of what the story was in the first place? I don't know.
I do
think it's pretty cool that if we're going forward, that Snyder's kind of in charge of this rerouting of the multiverse, if you will, this anti-crisis, and that story in the Wonder Woman special was written by him about her kind of being the first public hero, and she's dead center on that first Frank cover, right?
Yeah, which was notably and notably that story was from before everything changed.
Yes.
Right. So just the whole idea of her being the first hero, and it's not Superman or Batman, and it reframes the DC universe into this different place. I like that. I like when you play with that a little bit. And if that's what it's going to be going forward, cool. If that's kind of what Generations was going to set forward, you can still do that through death metal.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
And just
it doesn't change that much.
No, it doesn't. And there's some tangential evidence, at least, that things are different to what the original plan was, because the terrible site that I just referred to ran an article this past week about how the Jurgens generation story in Detective this week was actually originally written for one of the Generations one-shots, and they just, cut and paste it into here. And Jurgens, actively was like, nope, no, this was written originally always for Detective. This was always, written for this. Wasn't repurposed. I love it when people call out websites.
Well, even if he's just he's just trolling them, and that was right, and he's just like, nah, you guys are wrong. I love Jurgens for that even more. I want to hug him. Not now, of course.
When it's safe.
Down the line, when it's safe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's the guy that created Booster Gold, right? Like, I am forever indebted to Jurgens. Anyways, so, but yeah, I don't know, man. Everything seems up in the air. I don't care what the plans were. I'm going forward what the plan is. So.
Yes, news at 11. Comic book writer Dan Jurgens.
It's how I feel. It's how I feel about
comic news. Sorry, let me finish my joke, damn it, Matt. News at 11. Dan Jurgens, acclaimed comic book writer, caught the virus today. The suspect seems to have been a hugger. Some large man who was yelling about bears who's been dragged off by the police. Something about Vikings and bears.
Matt, why were you yelling about Gail Simone?
Yeah. I don't know.
I've not been paying enough attention to her Twitter because I did not get that joke.
She's a bear now.
Oh, she's a bear.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a thing this past week.
It's just a happenstance,
But Gail Simone's Twitter changes so fast though that if you miss it for 3 days, then good luck.
Well, anyways, I was gonna make a hockey reference that piss off Pete. Now that's gone into the wind. So,
We do it anyway.
Hold on, I was just gonna say it's a lot like I don't know what the plan was going for the Golden Knights, but I kind of feel what they're going to do, and I don't like any of it now. So DC's the opposite.
If I was writing the headlines for the sports websites this week, the title would have been Nightfall. Okay,
yep.
So
you are a hack because that's exactly what they did. So
clearly they're paid them enough. Pay your writers more, damn it. They're doing gold work, golden work. All right, we should get on to the books. The actual list of books is not that big, but we are starting off with something that's essentially a 6-issue trade in size. So, kicking off the week with Detective Comics 1027, which they're treating as a big special deal because, of course, Batman debuted in issue 27 of Detective Comics. So this is the Detective Comics 1000-issue anniversary of Batman.
Isn't that a little bit weird? Because in theory,
like 1027.
Yeah,
in theory, 1026 would have been the 1000th issue with Batman.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, but no, you are correct. I was gonna say, I mean, it is kind of monumental to 1,000 issues of it being a Batman book because what it was before.
Yeah, this is the 1001st, so this is going forward.
Yeah, I mean, technically you're right, but I guess it just doesn't look as good because actually seeing the number 27 means more visually than saying.
There's a more obvious link.
And I wanted to be cranky about it, but then it made it sense because I always want to compare it to how they treat Batman and how they treat Superman, and I was like, well, wait, Superman's always kind of been an action book.
I mean, I'm saying anniversary. I don't know if they've specifically used that terminology. This was way more annoying when
on the front cover, Pete, the epic 1000 issue anniversary of The Dark Knight.
Well, to finish my sentence, I was way more annoyed when they kept calling WrestleMania 25 the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania. No, it's not. It's the 24th anniversary of WrestleMania. That's not how this works.
And wasn't that WrestleMania? No, that was WrestleMania X5 was 15, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Ugh. Terrible branding.
Wait, sorry, did they use X5? So they did Roman numerals and regular numbers?
No, 15 was, it was 17 that was X7.
Okay, is that what it was?
What?
Well, no, it's not what you're thinking, Connor. It wasn't X and then the number 7. It was X dash then the word writ spelled out 7.
That's worse.
That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, this book, I just want to be up in front. I did not read 2 of the stories based off the art alone.
Okay. Interesting.
So it wasn't as much for me to read this because once I saw,
I will guess the 2 if I can. Can I guess Rosmo and John Romita Jr. as the 2 artists in question?
Yeah, I also skipped those, unsurprisingly.
And it kills me because I like Tynion, right? Like I like him a lot.
I like Kelly Sue.
And I like Kelly Sue. And so the fact that I skipped those, and then I started looking at the art, I could have read the Rosmo one. It wasn't as egregious as some of the other stuff we've seen in these kind of, the JR stuff I took way worse because it didn't look bad. It looked like JR, and it pisses me off that clearly put in work for 1027, not nearly enough work for his action run. So, like, come on, man.
I didn't read those. Obviously, I didn't read the Tomasi or Bendis ones either. Basically, this was a 6-issue trade, and I was like, I don't need to read all of that. I'll read like 4 issues worth.
Yeah, Connor's slacking.
No,
skimping.
I was never going to read the Bendis one, and Tomasi. Honestly, part of it was, I think all of Tomasi's in these anniversary issues, the 1000 ones have been underwhelming. They've always just been kind of they're okay. And also, he's the regular writer on Detective. So
we'll see if I agree with you. Then there's a lot of assumptions been made here, and so you just didn't read the 2 artist ones, right? Those 2 you mentioned, Matt.
Yeah, I read the rest of them.
Okay, cool.
I just want to say that someone took the art from the Tomasi pages because they're basically 1 page per. There's like a showcase of all the different Bat villains of Brad Walker's art, and I don't know who it was.
Yeah.
But they went and they put them all as one single image. And it almost worked better for me than the actual story, just to see the showcase.
Well, I mean, that's the first story we're going to talk about here. Because Tomasi's story is first. It's called Blowback, with Brad Walker on art, as you mentioned. And this is actually, like, I mean, at least if it is, it doesn't feel like it's part of the ongoing story that he's doing in Detective. It feels like a completely standalone thing. Which is basically Batman in a tank with essentially a straitjacket kind of style restraint on. And he's basically just trying to think of where he is, how he's going to get out, and it's basically the internal detective brain working.
And I will say, if Action Comics 1000 was just a celebration of Superman, we got Detective 1000 that was a celebration of Batman. This actually held true to the detective name because all the stories I read had a detective thread.
Yeah, there was a lot of that in here for sure.
So,
because it's basically him going through all the villains and basically being like, right, well, over the years I've fought Joker with his, over the top pranks. I've thought the Penguin with his gangster style stuff, and it's a showcase of like all the different like costumes and eras and all the rest of it. But it's basically him saying that he's built up such a good detective bank in his head because he's dealt with so many different types of villains, essentially. So it's an excuse to have all these splash pages of all these different villains.
And so, as an excuse to do those splash pages and see Brad Walker draw all the different ones, that was pretty cool. The Ultimate Resolution fell flat with me. It was some guy that we've never,
It was better than the excuse. I mean, for doing all these pages was better than normal. I felt.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just wish the resolution was better because, like you have some Z level gangsters in Gotham that you could have pulled from, and I'm not familiar with this guy that it ends up being. That Batman eventually figures it out because he remembers a sneeze, right? And then the guy that he ends up in the last page, is having allergies or cold or whatever. And
I do want to mention before we start talking about the ending properly is that. And the page with Mr. Freeze and Clayface has big giant knives coming out of his clay fingers, which I thought was inspired. So,
I also really like the Man-Bat page. Man-Bat looks proper scary, which I think sometimes gets lost because I've been so used to Justice League Dark Man-Bat. And he's, kind of a fun character, like a cartoony version, and you forget that. Oh no, he's basically a werewolf, but a bat, and he's supposed to be scary.
Yeah, I liked how they kind of themed some of the villains together in pairs, because he was on the same page as Scarecrow, and it was the idea this is the two like doctors, the two scientists who,
Right.
you know, and then you had like Harley and Ivy were together, obviously. It's things like that. I mean, yeah, I wasn't really that super familiar with this guy at the end either, but I did kind of like the whole ideas that it's just Batman figured it out. He used his detective work to figure it out. So I wasn't too down on the ending. But that was the first one.
Yeah. I just wish it was like Maxie Zeus or something, not just some nameless. Like, have a little bit more fun, Tomasi. You clearly have a deep hole of Batman.
Are you sure this isn't a character who's been pulled from somewhere before?
I'm trying to think.
Because I don't know him either, but
does he have a name?
I'm not going to assume
I don't
necessarily.
think he ever has a name.
Oh, maybe he doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's talking about how he's dead and Balsam. Something Balsam. Yeah, I'm Caleb. No, well, time to celebrate. No, that's not a name. Shoot.
It doesn't really matter. I'm just putting out there that maybe we just don't know him. That's kind of my point.
Yeah.
So, but I thought, I mean, it wasn't my favorite of the book by any means, but I thought it was solid and it was a fun series of pages to go through. Because it really felt. I mean, a lot of the stories in these anniversary issues do tend to try, at least some of them try and do this kind of this have a collage of all the years and see all of the rogues gallery, and let's go through all the eras and try and like celebrate the 80 plus years of the Batman and all that stuff. And as the opening, as the one that did that, it was a fine, perfectly enjoyable attempt at it. The second story was the Bendis one, and I'm sure Connor would disagree, but I think he missed out because I think this is actually a really good story. It's
a good story, but I know Connor would hate it.
He probably would.
The amount of banter back between all of them.
Oh, but this was good banter though.
It was, but in a vacuum, Connor's gonna see all the bubbles, and he's gonna get upset.
I have like flicked through the pages. There's a page with like a body and just so much just bubbles, boxes around it, and then there's like a 9-panel grid after that with so much words.
But this is an example of Bendis banter working really well, and I honestly like. I felt like I loved this Bat Family story so much that, like, if Bendis ends up in a Bat book after this, I'm not going to be that upset.
But
I'll be upset if he ends up on 2 Bat books.
Yeah. I mean, but if there's like a Batman family book, call it whatever.
I meant if he's on like Batman and Detective.
No, I know.
I'll be upset.
I think it's okay if it's just one book.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But no. Also, I really enjoy the art in this one because it's Marquez.
Yeah, the art's really good. I hadn't said what the art was because I've not got the credits page yet. But the premise of this one is that there's a dead body, like a corrupt policeman, is just lying dead on the top of it's a roof somewhere with a lot of building, high rises around it, and one by one, more or less, the Bat family kind of like arrive there, not because they've all been intentionally went there, because they've all stumbled onto the body. So it's Robin first, then Nightwing, and then Batgirl shows up, then Spoiler and Red Robin, and and it was just actually fun seeing some of these characters interact, because when was the last time we had Barbara and Stephanie like interact together?
Yeah, it's been a while.
I know, right?
But yeah, I like that it is the core Bat family, and I like how they all kind of show up. Like, so of course Damian's there first, right? Because it's Damian, and then Nightwing shows up, and you get all the interactions between them, and then Bab shows up, and it's just slow like reveal of everybody is real fun. And then when Batman shows up,
I love when Batman shows up, everyone immediately starts assuming, wait, is this a test? Did Batman set this up? This was like a Batman thing. And Batman's like, no, it's not a test, come on.
And my favorite running joke from this is that I think it's Tim keeps saying he smells like Killer Croc, and like, no, that's just Gotham.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Damian who keeps
is it Damian?
I think it's Damian. Yeah. I know Connor complained about that page with the dead body and all the boxes around it, but I loved that page. Because it was basically Batman sent, all of his kids are there, and he's like, okay, let's do the detective work, and one by one they each like sort of look for different clues, I actually really loved this story. I thought this was.
It was good.
And maybe this is a sign that even though I've liked a lot of what Bendis has done in Superman, some of it's not been completely to my taste. And maybe it's just another example of Bendis is really good on more street level stuff. When you give him characters like this dealing with a dead body and like the mystery of it.
Well, like one of my favorite issues of Daredevil has like almost no superhero stuff in it. It's Matt starts going off the deep end and all of his friends. So it's Peter Parker and Danny Rand and Luke Cage. And there's one more. They all come to visit him in his office. And it's a lot of banter back and forth. And it's about, are you sure you're okay? And it's when he ends up becoming the Kingpin. It was really good. This reminded me of that a lot. So.
Yeah, I think it's them basically solving the mystery, sort of realizing he's got this history and that he's, because essentially the mystery, because it does turn out to be Killer Croc, but is that this woman who was his ex-wife is blackmailing him, or he was blackmailing her, sorry, and this woman sent her new boyfriend to deal with them. And Killer Croc's the boyfriend, which I should make clear. Killer Croc is the new boyfriend. But Killer Croc doesn't kill him. But it turns out the guy like had a heart attack when Killer Croc showed up. He's like, oh, Killer Croc! Oh, and croaked.
Yes.
As you would. But I think what I love about it, because obviously I love the pages with Killer Croc, but I think I love that the vast majority of the story is just them on that roof looking for clues and like talking about, what the case is.
And looking around and seeing that people are staring at them, right? Because it's an open space.
Yeah, Joe, I loved about it. I loved the feeling of like they're all doing different things. So you have like Tim and Damien and stuff looking at clues and going into the building underneath. But I love that at the same time, more or less, Babs is like grappling up to like a balcony and saying, "Hey, did you guys see anything strange?" To the crowd that are now kind of forming around the skylines.
Also, I think it's in there. I didn't reread it. I read this early in the week. I think there's more shade at Tim Drake because someone calls him, or maybe that's in Batman. That's in Batman. They call him Duck Boy.
That's Harley in Batman.
Yeah, it's Batman.
Yeah, okay, never mind. There's too much Batman this week, guys. I would say there was more shade thrown, and if it was coming from Bendis, I was going to say that was an indication. But no, okay.
But it ends with a great panel of them all in silhouette as Batman flies off after he calls his family good detectives, and they're all just sort of standing there. That was good. That was good.
I feel that sometimes writers forget that Batman can be tender.
Mm-hmm.
That Bruce, and so him leaving here with a smile about his family, like that's the Bruce I like. That's in.
Oh, I've got Bruce more on that from unexpected writers later.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Steph being included here also fills my heart with joy because you could easily have done this without Steph because you've got the 4 Robins, you've got Babs. So many people would leave it there and they wouldn't go any further. But Steph being included,
but
if anything, Cass is the only one that now I'm upset it's not included. But
yeah. I was going to say that the only one that hasn't been a Robin was Babs.
Oh, technically, yeah.
I know that spoilers. That's not continuity anymore.
Cass was never really a member of the Bat family, though. She was always like intentionally an outsider.
Right. That's why she's an orphan.
Right, but the whole time, even when she was Batgirl, she was still like a bit of an outsider, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense to me.
But she worked Hunter Bat. I don't know. I mean, especially recently with the Detective Comics run and what she's been recently in Outsiders.
I kind of expected Duke to be there as much as I don't like him. Like if you're throwing Red Hood in there, kind of.
I'd happily take out Red Hood and put in Duke. I'm not going to make no arguments. That said, I get from
this is pretty good.
I get from the history perspective that Jason is more important to the overall mythology, but still. But no, I really like this as well. This was kind of your Bat Family celebration thing. And honestly, Bendis on a Bat Family book, because I actually think Bendis might be perfect for a Stephanie Brown dialogue. I mean, obviously we've had snippets of it in Young Justice. I think he's got the right wit for her, I would say. So, as much as that would torment Connor. But no, I actually really love this story. But one of the things I'll say about this book as a whole is, and I'm not really saying that I want other specials to be 144 pages, but I will say one of the benefits that kind of came from it is that every story felt like it got enough pages to actually be a proper story.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. I think the solution on other ones is
to have less.
Still do an 80-page thing, but have 5 writers instead of 10.
No, I agree. Like the solution here is not to make everything 144 pages. It's just to have less stories in those 80-page or 100-page books. But I will say that it kind of like gave them this chance to every story is at least like 12 pages, give or take. I don't know. I didn't count, but they all feel long enough to actually feel like they've got a beginning, middle, and end, and they're not just these little 2 or 3 page things where it's like, oh, that was cute, but wasn't really
not really much of a story.
Yeah. So next up we have the story that goes through all the years. Starts off with year 1, month 11, and then progresses to all the.
This is the Fraction and Zdarsky one.
Zdarsky.
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
I was like, this art is so familiar. Why is this art so familiar? It looks like Byrne. And I was like, oh, I got to the end. I was like, oh, it's Zdarsky. No shit.
I can see the comparison with Byrne, actually.
Yeah, they
That's
have the
Byrne's
clean
a little bit-
lines.
I think Byrne's a
And-
little bit cleaner, but yeah, I
Yeah.
can see it. Yeah.
There's some
And
similarities.
it's a bit cartoony.
I do wonder
yeah.
how much research went into this, because it goes through this. It's like year 3, month 4, and then it's like year 4, month whatever. And because what if it's year 4, month 2, you actually see the classic New Teen Titans in the panel. And I was wondering, like, how much research do you think went into this for them to try and like, okay, we're going to try and accurately say roughly what the period was in each of these eras.
Knowing Fraction, probably quite a bit.
Yeah,
a lot.
that's it.
Yeah.
And there's references to
I
stuff.
just-
There's clearly like a Batman '89 movie reference at one point with the bat plane going towards the balloons, stuff like that.
I just hope Fraction writes some more TC now, because we've gotten the Jimmy, we got this story which I enjoyed. He seems to like playing with the history of the characters. I mean, just look at that whole Jimmy series.
I mean, honestly, I mean, I like this as well because I didn't know it was Fraction till the end, and I was kind of surprised because like, oh, I kind of like
Me
that.
too. Yeah. No.
So
But yeah.
Hey,
Also,
do you
I was
wanna-
getting vibes of what?
I was gonna say, do you know what it is? Maybe this is kind of still to Bendis because I liked Fraction's Hawkeye a lot, but I've not really liked these other stuff. Maybe it's like Bendis where he's just, for at least for me, street level characters where it's not goofier stuff
there's
is more my
something-
thing.
A little bit goofy and special about the entire thing building up to a joke of Batman yelling, "Give me my birthday present."
Sure, yeah, I can see the
Like
humor in that.
that felt very on brand for Fraction and the comedy side.
Some of the individual panels are quite nice. So I really like. There's one panel. I think it's in the year 11 sort of period where Batman's in the sewers looking for Killer Croc. He's got like a flamethrower, and it reminds me of like something you'd seen like Aliens with Sigourney Weaver, but it's Batman going through a sewer with a flamethrower. It's just it's a visual.
Also, we got the year 4, month 7, Batman fighting a Jokerized gorilla with "Do not feed the animals" crossed out in the back says "Feed the animals." Jokerized panda bear, like.
Hey, the panda works really well for Jokerization because of the white fur.
It does.
Yeah.
Yep. So
I liked
all
when
that.
I think it's just after that page where he pops up in the back of Gordon's car and he's got a world's finest commissioner. Not world's best, world's finest.
yes.
I like that little touch.
I even noticed that the first time. That's quite good.
Oh yeah, and but yeah, just all the stuff, and then it looks, the year 19, month 5.
Yeah, so I should explain what the actual premise of this issue is that basically it's Batman's telling the story in his narration about how basically ever since the Joker appeared and kind of fell in love with Batman essentially, is that every month he would give him a birthday present, even though obviously he can have a birthday every month, and he never actually hit Batman's real birthday, of course, because he's the Joker.
Right.
But every month, and it would, essentially the idea being that every time the Joker pulled off some big stunt, it was for Batman's birthday. So it's kind of like a weird continuity thing, but it's this fun idea where as the issue progresses, it gets more tense because it changes from this is what the present was to every month there's this anticipation of, oh god, what's he going to do for the birthday.
I like that as well. Like there's the unpredictability because they talk about some months it was really bad, other months it was a little drawing that he'd made saying best friends.
Yeah, it was nothing. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the whole idea of it is that it's all about Batman in this constant state of like, what's he going to do next? The idea that the Joker keeps doing worse and worse things. So it's basically just a commentary on how the Joker makes Batman feel about, with all of his big things and
And
antics.
the idea that it got to like the very last day of the month. I think it was Halloween actually.
Yeah.
Of whichever year it was, and nothing had happened yet, and it was, oh god, we're due this month. Quick, we've got to find it before something terrible happens.
Yeah. So
I really like that.
no, it was a good story. It's called Many Happy Returns. So there you go. Next up, we got the Ruckus story, which is the story of a young woman who is applying and going through the testing and becoming a police officer in Gotham City. So it's funny because I got into like a page or two of this and I went, this has to be the Ruckus one because it didn't tell me till the end.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the Rizzo art; it was Rizzo. Yeah, you just looked at it, and this feels more Gotham Central than Batman. And that's
Yeah.
It does. Down to the fact that by the end of the story, like some of the good cops who show up are, Montoya and Crispus,
Yeah, Christmas Allen, and it's very of the moment, especially here. And it makes me wonder if this is, and I know how politically motivated Rucka gets. I mean, Lazarus just
I would
all that.
I would
Slowly
love to see
becoming
him do
reality.
a take on Gotham Central now.
Oh,
Now, yeah.
Even just from this glimpse, the hints of him tackling things like police brutality. Because obviously, ever since year one kind of came out, this idea of Gotham City being this corrupt cesspool, where at every level has been a facet to what Gotham City is. So I think him slipping parts of real world politics into the police corruption is so natural and fits so well. And it's funny because like I feel like you look at Batman now and like more than ever you're like, yeah, like the reason why Batman year one sort of really like worked and why everyone sort of uses it as the foundation is because the idea of the city needing Batman because the authorities themselves are corrupt.
Them.
Yeah,
right. That he would fight the corrupt cops as much as he would fight the Joker. I always liked that, and I always liked, even under Commissioner Gordon, he's only one guy, right? And by the time he gets a commissioner, sure, he can clean things up, but he even has his own unit with the major crimes unit. So it's still, as we saw in the Bendis story, corrupt cops and Gotham go together. But yeah, I know Rucka doing this now, but it was just, I wonder how long ago he's had this idea, if this is just something Rucka, because he is politically minded.
Yeah, I love
capturing real world stuff.
I love the narration here. I thought as it got closer to the end, the idea that the character starts talking about how all the corrupt cops and the others who sort of give in to this temptation, because she's immediately told to forget the protect and serve crap. You're here to make money. You're doing this. You're doing that. The idea that every single day she says no because she's got a moral. She wants to actually be a good person. She wants to help people, whatever, all the good reasons why someone would want to do that, and she says every day that she doesn't give into it, she's proof to everyone else that they're weak and in the wrong, so that's why they hate her. So it was a really interesting, I thought, examination of the mentality of the others who get angrier and angrier at her
why
for not,
they want to bring them down, because the whole point is they keep using the word rookie as an insult, because she's still fresh and has the idealism, and they hate that because they haven't got that anymore.
Because if she proves that she doesn't have to become like them, it's proof that they have essentially
they've been
wrong.
Either.
Yeah, they've been wrong the whole time by doing it.
It's I'm gonna drag you down into the muck, so you're just as dirty as me.
I mean,
and she's like,
at its
no.
core, it's very hazing, right? The idea that they redo it to the next year of people because they had it done to them, and it's like, well, we had to suffer, so you do too.
We gotta stop. And I've listened to numerous shows with the state of the world being what it is. I've listened to plenty of shows about real world stuff, and it's out there. And this stuff does happen. Like I can't speak to it exactly. So the fact that he's putting it here in a Batman book, and Batman's always so close to the real world, it's kind of why it works. It's the same with what he did with Lois with the stuff with journalism, right?
Yeah,
the first part of that book was, this is resounding because it's so close to the real world. And sure, Superman's in this book, but the reason that Lois is kind of the focus is you can touch on it more with her. And here, I like that he created a new character, and it's a person of color, and it's a girl. It's a woman.
It adds a bit of I mean, it would work with Mark Who, as if the person's a good person and wants to do the right thing, it would work with whoever. But yeah, it adds an extra bit of, just when she sees like evidence being planted on like a black person who they've shot, which because they see them planting a gun on them, it's like, it just adds an extra bit of that sting.
Oh, yeah, and also it gave me shades of Far Sector, right? When we got Joe's origin, very similar to this, right? Where
for sure, yeah.
It, so the fact that this is working its way. In the superhero comics,
I think it's great that this sort of thing's been tackled, and I love how, because our story actually did remind me as I was going through it, just like if you remember year one, like remember Gordon's story in year one and his frustration of like being in the city, and that the Batman kind of became his only hope. I do love that at the end of this story, when she thinks that she's basically screwed, maybe she has to give in. That's when Montoya and Crispus Allen show up, and then immediately you have, you know, the cops basically are going to fight back and start shooting. They're going all out corrupt, and that's when the Batarang comes in, and it's this idea that she felt alone for so long, but ultimately by the ending, the you know, the heart of the story is that no, Gordon is there. Gordon's noticed that she's a good cop. Batman's there. Batman's noticed she's a good cop. There are others there to help her. She's not alone in the fight. So there's this.
I really like that panel towards the end where it's just Batman, you know, in the shadows, and you just see him, you know, coming out from behind a wall, talking to Gordon, and then Gordon looking over, and it almost looks like he's looking at, you know, in our direction with the way it's framed. But you just, you know, okay, so, you know, Batman said something to him. He's looked over at her, and then the next panel, you know, is him, you know, talking to her and, you know, inviting her to the major crimes unit.
Yeah, you can almost that when you say Gordon's almost looking at us, you can almost say this is a more subtle way. Remember, old comics used to do the sort of, you know, be good to each other. You know, Superman,
right?
You know,
Mike's going.
It's almost that. It's Gordon looking at us saying, no, be the good cop, because there's other people out here who will have your back and will support you and will hold, you know, up to the standard they should be held up to. And so. No, it was a nice. Obviously, the story's called Rookie, if that wasn't obvious. No, this was wonderful.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah,
I mean, it's Rucka coming back to Gotham, so
yeah. I think this was the one where I got to the end of it. I think the Bendis one I felt it as well, but this is one where I got to the end of it. I was like, I'm glad that got so many pages, because it wasn't quite a full 20-page issue, but it felt close enough to it.
I actually felt that in the last one as well, in the sense that I can see this functioning in 8 pages, but you have to, you know, really cut down how many years you flash through, how many examples you show. I think having that time in that previous story really kind of showed how much, you know, every month it wore him down, waiting for it. That worked. The
length of each of these, even though it's a really long book, actually did help with each story. So obviously there's maybe a couple I would cut, because I don't like them, but the ones that are good benefit greatly from those extra pages, I think. So that's the Rucka story. Very, very good stuff. So next up we have the one with the you know, the art. What would you call him? Rosmo. Thank you. I think we're just talking about Rizzo. We're just talking about Rizzo, so I was like, no,
right.
Rosmo,
Rizzo.
Yeah, it's not him again.
Yeah, it kind of drives me nuts, because it's also got Deadman in there.
Yeah, I saw that flicking through.
Yeah, the story here is that Deadman is working with Batman and Robin, young Dick Grayson, to take down some evil spirits, and Deadman possesses Batman to help. And it's basically a story about how Batman has not been scared of ghosts since he was a kid, ever since he had a conversation with his mother when he had a nightmare. And Deadman's like, oh, that's cool. It's weird, but it's cool that you're not scared of ghosts. And it kind of ends with, after they've dealt with the thing, Deadman's kind of like, hey, you know, if you want a favor, I could, you know, your parents' ghosts are probably out there. I could probably go and find them. And Batman declines and says, no, I know they're out there. I don't have to do that, but thank you anyway. So, I mean, that's basically it. It's an alright little story for the most part. I kind of hated the art, though, in every way possible. Batman's eyes were pissing me off.
Just flicking through it, I hate Batman's eyes. I hate how elongated and stretched out Deadman is a lot of the times.
And Robin, look at, he's lanky.
At least he looks like people lanky. Deadman just looks unnatural. I know he's a ghost, but that's not what how Deadman is typically portrayed.
The 2-page layout that's in the middle of it, when Batman's kicking like the spirit dude in the face, the art in that page is like basically eye-stabbingly bad to me. I hate it. I hate the look in his face. I hate the way his legs are bent. I hate all of it. Not for me. So I was pleasant. The last time we got a Rosmo story in an anthology book, I was surprised I actually kind of liked it, because the art was a bit more subdued and it worked for the story it was telling. I think this one I wasn't as into. I think the story was bad, though. It was definitely my least favourite of the one so far, though, I think. I would say comfortably.
Sure.
Yeah. You alright, Matt? What's up?
Nothing. I'm just checking something. Someone called me and I'm trying to figure out why. And then they haven't called me back. And I'm trying not to have it go off.
Yes.
You know? So I'm just checking.
Very professional.
Yeah.
So there's a pen up next by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez.
There's not actually that many pinups in this one.
I thought it was odd.
Story.
Yeah, I thought it was odd though that there is some, but they didn't start until this book, because this is already like, you know, almost halfway through the book or something like that. Or yeah, almost. We're getting there.
Yeah, coming up to it, I suppose.
Yeah. It was quite far in to start the pinups when there is more.
And they're not like after every story from here on out. I don't think there's just like another 2 or 3 maybe.
It's a bit weird. So next up we have the Kelly Sue story, which unfortunately is the one with the John Romita Jr. art.
Yes, and I have better things to do in my life than willingly read a John Romita Jr. art. So,
well, out of respect for Kelly Sue, I suffered through it.
There you go.
So this is a really simple story. Bruce is on a golf course in the rain with this bad guy, and the bad guy is trying to buy a building that Bruce owns, and Bruce doesn't want to give it up. And it intercuts with Batman taking on a bunch of thugs, and it's just kind of like his determination and work ethic and all that stuff. The twist of the story is that Bruce actually is wearing a wire for Gordon. And so he's actually helping the police force as Bruce Wayne here to catch out this guy who's actually fully corrupt, and he's paid off judges, he's paid off like whole like city council like departments and stuff like that. So they get all this on tape, and he comes in. Bruce does have a little stylish moment. I'll call it the extreme Happy Gilmore moment, where the guy tries to run and Bruce kind of just throws a golf club at him and trips him up in the legs. But I will say that's probably the only thing in the art I like is the panel of the spinning golf club, which he's actually done sort of like it also looks like a wheel coming at you because of the way it's sort of been drawn with all the permutations of the golf club spinning around. Obviously the art is pretty dire. I hate these faces.
It's still better than anything in action. Just by browsing it.
I mean, it's not saying much, but
I don't know if it's telling
bar.
the story effectively, but the fact that you pointed out that golf club panel.
Yeah.
I mean,
true. Yes. Well, he tends to be okay with motion. It's just faces and everything else with detail.
I will never forgive him for Caveman Superman. during
I'll never forgive him for getting to Chief Moore and being like, wait, is this a Sandman character? Who is this?
Yeah, that's true.
Who is this character? Oh, it was a character I liked, and she's dead now, and now I don't. I wasn't even sure it was her for the first, 3 pages. All right, next up. We have a story, some treasure hunting going on here. We got was it Patrick Wayne, Bruce's grandfather, was saving a lot of art during World War II. And
before World War II.
Was it before World War II? Sorry.
Yeah, they obviously it was in the years coming up where they knew things were going to come down. It's like, all right, let's get things to safety.
You're right. Just before World War II. But I remember saving from the Nazis, so I assume World War II.
Yeah. Plays in later.
But so they're actually off the coast of Scotland, funnily enough. When we don't see a lot of it in this flashback. What actually happens? We see a crash. The helicopter comes in. But we cut to present day, and Bruce is on a podcast. We have a team of podcasters who are going to be web streaming the expedition to the
I thought
boat.
This was really weird. There's a team of podcasters. There's 4 of them who are all grandchildren of famous Gotham detectives. What? Like one of them being that, sure, but then we made a super team.
As silly as that is, I low-key love it because it's so Silver Age.
Like when it was just the first one, because Bruce is like, oh yeah, your grandfather or whatever was a great detective, and almost made me want to become a detective.
I was a little bit worried though that after reading this, Matt was going to get some ideas and be like, hey, see for next week's episode, can we all go like scuba diving and like do the podcast looking for treasure? I want to do some exploration.
I don't know if you guys would be the ones that would ask to go scuba diving, but hey,
why not?
So I looked up all of these characters and their relations.
Yes.
Because as you do. And
as you do.
So Roy Raymond Jr. He's actually been in the DC universe before as Owlman, before Forever Evil. I don't know if you guys read Outsiders right before.
I did not. No.
Rebirth. Yeah, there was a new Owlman that was very much like Night Owl from Watchmen. And yeah, so that character has been, his Roy Raymond was his grandfather, and that plays out. And then you have the Compass was Captain Compass, who was a nautical themed detective in the pages of Detective Comics. Of course, you have Bradley, who's Slam Bradley's granddaughter, and where's the last one?
Saunders,
which of course is Speed Saunders, who is also, which would mean they're related to Hot Girl, who is Kendra Saunders, who was Speed's grandniece. So
I don't know. Matt said hot girl so quickly. I thought he said hot girl for a second.
I mean, on
Both are applicable.
CW show. It's the same thing, right?
So this is the Marv Wolfman story, just to be clear with the
With art by Lupacino, which the inks and the color, I would say, did not help Lupacino.
I liked the washed out style of the colors.
Yes.
I just wish they weren't quite as flat.
Yeah, they're flat and the inks are heavy. Like you look at some of the art, it really was reminding me of some Hill House stuff.
I was going to say, the inks remind me of stuff you get on like a Murphy book, like if you look like the Wake, especially on some of the faces as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say I like some of the ideas in this story. It's one of my least favorite stories in the book, though. I think that when it got towards the ending and there was like a double turn was happening underwater, and they were saying, "Oh, this is what really happened. This didn't happen." I actually didn't think it was the through line of thought didn't necessarily feel that smooth to me. So when it got to the end, I was just kind of like, "Oh, okay." I kind of get the gist of what happened because of all the dialogue afterwards, but it wasn't actually that clear. I don't think in the pages initially.
I loved how silly it was.
Of course you did.
Yeah, like this is right up my alley. Like if they announced they were going to do a follow-up one shot to this, I'd buy it in a heartbeat.
This is the Batman movie that James Cameron will make if he ever does one. He'll be like, yeah, we'll do expeditions. Yes, we'll go deep sea diving.
Sign me up. And it might help that there's very little Batman in this. Like he's there.
Oh yeah.
For like 2 pages at most.
Yeah, and so.
Well, obviously, this is one of these things where it's celebrated. The reason why these are all grandchildren or whatever of the detectives is to celebrate all the old detectives. Many of whom obviously were in Detective Comics at one point.
Was Detective Comics.
I just feel like at that point, just do a story with those detectives. It's fine. Right. We're an anthology one shot. It doesn't have to be the grandchildren.
Legacy characters,
This was his idea for a story. He wanted to do a legacy thing with them all in the present day. I get it. That was his idea. Nothing wrong with that. So next up we got the Silver Ghost story, which is Grant Morrison and Chris Burnham, and of course Morrison is one who goes deep into the old school stuff here. This is basically the story of the wannabe sort of PI vigilante who becomes Silver Ghost. He spends time really thinking about, there's all these Slam Bradleys, I'm never going to stand out, what can I do? And he starts to maybe I'll wear a mask, maybe I'll have a persona, a name with a colour in it, because those sound really catchy, and he's got like a lair, and the art's really cool, and he's like, if I don't do this, who else will? And he's going to his first big job as the Silver Ghost, and through the skylight, the Detective Comics 27 version of Batman with the purple gloves comes in and beats the living crap out of everyone, and the Silver Ghost just hangs up his stuff.
I've not read Detective Comics 27 in years at this point. Is this the first story? Is this the story in that? And this is supposed to, and this is just, because it was ringing enough bells that I'm like, this feels familiar, and also it's Morrison's. I'm like, this feels like what Morrison would do, and it would be literally Batman's first appearance, his first night, just undercutting Silver Ghost.
Yeah,
I love it.
This
is called Detective 26 because there's he's the 26th, but also he's almost to Batman, right? You look at the idea board, and there's Sherlock Holmes and Zorro and what looks like a Gaucho, the wings from like the Da Vinci flying machine.
Yeah, the name,
and the utility belt, and
the name
almost has
a double meaning, because it's obviously, we think of Detective 27 as being the start of Batman, so it's got that kind of meta, it's the one before Batman, but it's also the way it comes up in the stories when he's thinking about it, and he just sort of says, there's all these other detectives. What am I? I'm like detective number 26. It was just like he could have picked any number. Obviously, it's 26 because
27's the important one.
Yeah. So, no, that's fun. Honestly, this is one of these things where I saw Grant Morrison's there, and I'm like, okay, right, this could go either way. And I actually thought it was a well done little story with a nice, funny kind of twist to it. It wasn't a surprising twist. Obviously, you kind of expect it to build up to what it's building up to, but
I did enjoy it though. I enjoyed just the comedy of it. I thought it was really well told. I thought Burnham's art is really well suited for this. And the sequential timing of it is right up there.
Yeah.
Good Lord, there were so many. I just pulled up the actual Detective 26 on a wiki. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 different stories in there.
Yeah. Obviously, I said earlier, I've been rereading Super Gods, and the first part is about the creation of Superman and then Batman in that order, and it talks about how with Batman, Superman was this lightning in a bottle kind of chance inspiration, whereas Batman, you can feel the manufacturing, and he wasn't alone. He's just the one that happened to take off, but you can feel it in those preceding issues of Detective, just them throwing everything at the wall, being like, we've got to find the one that'll stick, that something's in here. And I think that kind of shows.
I think in retrospect, it's really funny to look at it though, because obviously in hindsight, it's like Batman is so popular, has been so successful, endured so much, been a staple character for 80 plus years that, no, I mean, they found it. They found the one that stuck.
you can be, you look at it and go, how can it have been anything but Batman?
Yeah. So it's like almost like, if you try enough, you'll hit that $1 billion idea. Because let's face it, Batman was $1 billion idea. They didn't know it for a long time, obviously, until they started making that amount of money. But I mean, Batman must have made billions of dollars by now.
Yeah, but not to Bill Finger.
Oh, okay, yes, that's the sad part. Yes, I agree. So then the next story is this was kind of a weird one. This is the Tom King one with Walter Simonson on the art. I wasn't super hot in this one. How did you guys feel?
It feels like a prologue to the Batman Catwoman.
Yeah, that's what I felt. And it's very King. It's very cerebral and very, him with Dr. Phosphorus and Phosphorus wanting, to let Batman know that he's the one that killed him eventually by giving him cancer.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're just like, damn, King, you're dark, man.
I mean, I like the idea of Phosphorus being like, yes, you'll know it was me that did it. It was me. Like no one else could kill Batman, but technically I did it. I mean, it took a while to kick in, but I did it. I appreciate the idea in that, and the idea of Selena being with him. I will say, Simonson's art, I'm not in love with here.
I like it well enough. I don't think it's his best work, that's for sure. I really like the pacing of it, and the way he, the speed at which he tells his story.
And I've offended Matt so much because I said Simonson's art wasn't great here that he's just left the room.
Yeah, the page where they jump off the bridge, I think, is absolutely phenomenal. Just the way it kind of, you got the wide shot and then it gets in and falling down and then the splash. I love that page, and the way that the different panels are different thicknesses, even how high they extend changes. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the sequence is fine. Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of the line work in the faces. It's got this is going to sound really insulting, but it's got a little bit of that GRGR sort of.
No,
lines
I actually know
in
where you're coming from, and I think this is better. Don't get me wrong. I think it's probably fair to say GRGR was quite heavily influenced by Simonson. He's around that time that it makes sense.
I mean, no, I mean, I have no doubt that Simonson's past art is there's a reason why he's a name in the industry, but I wasn't like super into this. I was like,
yeah, like this isn't his peak best work. Like go look at any of his stuff. Like I think it's Thor, for example.
Thor run,
it's special, right? It's up there with some of the best comic book art of all time. This is not that, but I think it's solid. Even if his line work, maybe it's not as strong as it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just starting this story, Matt. If you want to have any final thoughts.
No, that was just super dark and altruistic Bruce.
Yeah. So next up, we have the Scott Snyder story, which
you could tell as soon as it got to like the Justice League double page spread. Because throw in cyborgs in there, obviously, but take him out, and you're basically like, this feels like the mind meeting scenes from his Justice League run. And I went, yeah. Would you a Snyder story?
So obviously this is this is definitely a sort of out of continuity kind of take. It sort of starts in the sort of the world that we recognize and goes really wild with its ideas. Which is Gordon on a roof talking to Batman and talking about the importance of the signal and how, like, just in case the sun doesn't come up, we'll make our own damn light. So that's what the bat signal's there for, to show that morning's coming. And then the morning doesn't come. The sun's literally just disappeared. It's a week until the Earth just freezes to death.
Yeah. Didn't this happen in Justice League?
That was the moon that disappeared.
Oh, okay. It's been a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
That seemed familiar.
I suppose it's a similar enough concept. The sun disappears
Yeah.
a way bigger deal, though.
Oh, much bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's basically, Batman and Justice League goes through all this stuff. They fight, Brainiac and the usual suspects, as he puts it. They try all these different things. We see the super family with like a shrunken son in one of the bottles from Brainiac's ship, and all the rest of it. And like, basically they're forming a plan, and Gordon's like, he's scared, and the one time he talks to Batman over the phone, he's scared because Batman's the least sure he's ever been, but he felt reassured, the most reassured he's ever felt when Batman came back, because at the start of the story it kind of sets up this idea that was it he calls the Bad Knights Black Rooster.
Black Roosters,
Yeah.
which I was trying to figure out the thing for.
Yeah, so Batman shows up at the end on the rooftop, like he always does, and Gordon says, "Is it just a Black Rooster?" And he nodded, and he says, "Oh, I never felt more, more still." And he never explains what the plan is so much. It's basically just, it's literally going to be the idea that they're going to make their own light. They'll make their own morning, so it ends with them turning on the signal. The artist is gorgeous, by the way. Everything with Gordon on the rooftops.
Possibly Ivan Reis's best work.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the stuff with Justice League is good, but everything with Gordon and Batman on those rooftops with that bat signal behind them is just...
Wait. Best work since Green Lantern, or best work?
No, best work. Period.
Say I disagree.
No, don't get me wrong. I love his Green Lantern stuff, and I think Reis has always been a solid artist, but rarely one of my favorites. But this issue, I thought, this story, I thought he was spectacular. All the stuff on the rooftop with the shadows and stuff, the soft lines with the deep inks and the scratches. I love his cityscape, and then you've got that big double page spreads in the middle, where everything is just larger than life.
It didn't actually go as far as I thought it was, because I was kind of, about halfway through the story, I realized kind of where it was going, and I thought, Matt's going to hate this, because I was expecting it to end with literally a bat sun. I was expecting a bat sun in the sky.
Had it done that, I would have thrown my iPad across the room and would have required a new one. So, but no.
But what it actually does is it leaves it kind of ambiguous as to what the actual solution is. It's just that Batman's found one. The Batman and Justice League have found one.
Right.
And
as they do.
And it's the more representative turning on the signal at the end. So I actually relate this story. And Snyder's Batman work is very up and down for me. But that's just silly.
He's more down on the anthology style ones, because he gets out there like more than he ever does, even in his continuity stuff, where it's just like, I got an idea, something that about what Batman represents, and he takes it to an extreme. And this is still fairly extreme. It's Batman building a machine to create a sun. I mean,
it may literally be the most extreme. But I think the reason why this one doesn't bother me, like a lot of the other ideas he has in his run, is because I don't think you're supposed to take it quite as literal as a lot of his actual other stories. It's more representative of the promise of the signal and what it means to the city and what it means of hope.
I agree, because as much as it is literally because Batman, creating a machine to make a sun, the issue or the story doesn't feel about that. Like, sure, there's a quest to get that
because
and
Gordon.
find it,
it's Gordon on the ground.
Yeah, and I think that's the key
that's what
part
makes
of
it
it.
work.
It's Gordon's narration that anchors it all through everything, where it's his perspective, his worry, his it's fine. Batman came through in the end because Batman, but that's not how Gordon sees it. It's it's Batman. Did it again.
Yeah, Batman's there for him. Batman, when the chips are down and he thinks he's got no hope in the world, Batman's the one sort of lifeline he's got to keep him going, even after all these years. That's the heart of the story, and I think it works because you don't take it super literal. I mean, yes, in the story, technically, he's building a machine to recreate a sun.
I'm really glad it didn't focus on like that. He goes, there's some blueprints. They just did it, and in this story, that's all we need.
Yeah. I actually really like this one, so pleasantly surprised. Pin up by Jim Chung. Next, and then another pin up. This is 2 in a row. This was weird. The pacing of these pin ups was all over the place. This is the Liebe Hermann one, and the very classic looking cowl there as well.
Yeah. This is very early Batman, because even look, if these guys broke into my house to help me from someone trying to murder me, I would be just as afraid. Especially Robin. Robin looks like a peeping Tom.
It's true. I like that a lot of these in this issue they're doing a bit more of a grizzled Batman. Got some stubble. We don't see that enough.
Well, even the next story, the first page of the next story's got some stubble on
Yeah.
Batman's.
So it does. I had not remembered that. I just in general it seemed to be a theme in this issue.
So this is the Dan Jurgens story, which I'm assuming that Matt was into at the start, because this is called Generations Fracture, so even the name ties it into things. But before the actual timey-wimey of Generation stuff happens, this is a story of Batman taking on a gang which comprises of a Frankenstein's monster, a Dracula, a mummy, and a Wolfman.
All costumes.
It's like Monster Squad.
They're not like actual monsters.
No, but
that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't. But I mean, this is the DC universe. These things all exist. We could have had them,
which makes the fact that them breaking into a museum to steal stuff on Batman's watch, and they're not an actual vampire, Frankenstein's monster, mummy, werewolf, a bad idea.
I just love the because it's on Halloween. I love the idea that even Gotham's criminals are like, we'll dress up for Halloween.
Yeah. But it's like each of their stuff. So like the guy that's Frankenstein, he goes, those guys don't got an exoskeleton like me. It's like, well, clearly they thought all this through, and this was going to be their new gang of Universal monsters. So I love that.
So it's a bit of a fight, but the big thing is though is that Calendar Man's behind it. Batman takes him on, and
it's the Phantom.
Yeah,
I love it.
But it focuses on there's like a painting on the wall that says gallery donated by Dr. Thomas and Martha Wayne 1985, which is this a sign that when reality splinters in a second, and then Batman the art changes, and I actually really like the art when it changes. By the way,
it's really great, and you can just see the costume change all of a sudden. It's really subtle. He's
got the purple gloves, and then the painting on the wall, with the plaque under it says, 1915 instead. So we're back in this is the era that obviously built up to when Batman became a thing in the 30s.
I like how it's a gradual shift to that as well. There's like an actual rewinding of time, because if you look at the one where it shatters, you have the Batman that we've been seeing through the story so far with the yellow oval, but then the bottom one is just the the black on grey for the bat, but he doesn't have the crazy long ears. So it's clearly not quite there yet.
Yeah, the ears get shorter with each one. Yeah, you can sort of see it changing. And the kill changes.
And then big again when it's the Detective 27 Batman.
Yeah, so then he comes out of the building, and there's a flash of light, and Commandy with a gauntlet on, which I'm assuming this is like a skeet, right?
It has something to do with Booster, because it talks about the old guy. Something about an older Booster in a suit. So yeah, I'm assuming it has to do with Skeets.
Yeah, Commandy talks about the old guy. He calls him the wrong name, and then the gauntlet corrects him. So I'm like, oh, is this like Skeet in a new form? Like Skeet's got this gauntlet now? Because it is the same color. It's gold.
It is, yeah. And I don't know if we mentioned, obviously the painting is now, it says 1915, but it was donated.
Right,
yeah,
he did.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I don't remember.
So he's basically saying, something's wrong with time. You have to come with me. We're building a team. Really emphasizes that, and takes Batman through a portal. And it just says continue then Generations Future State issue 1. So this is kind of neat that it builds up, because I obviously I noticed the title, but I kind of forgotten about it a little bit because I was just sort of into it's the monsters and Batman's fighting them. It's kind of fun, nothing special. But then this happened, and then I'm like, wait a minute. Oh yeah, it's a Generations lead in. Oh, we're doing continuity stuff.
Which we know from the Generations one shot what the team was, because we knew it was this Batman, we knew it was Commandy, we knew it was Booster. I think it had Sinestro in a Green Lantern uniform, a couple of others that we talked about in the solicits last week. Yeah.
So really cool. I thought it was a really fun lead in. It's not the best story in the book by any stretch, but it's really exciting because of what it's setting up.
It's just a reminder of, we have exciting stuff still coming.
Yeah, so that's a neat tease.
There's that, and it's Dan Jurgens doing timey-wimey stuff, which I'm here for. So.
Yeah, so it makes sense that Dan Jurgens is probably going to be one of the writers on some of these things coming up. So, no, really cool. The art in the first half was alright. I thought it was really good, though, once it changed for the classic style.
Yeah, there was some really good stuff in the first half as well, though. Honestly, my only problem when I was reading this, a critique, is when he first sees Calendar Man, and he just says, Julian Day, the Calendar Man. I'm like, one or the other. It felt like it felt like they didn't know if people would know who Calendar Man was. Yeah. So they wanted to put in both, and I get that.
But even then, Julian Day is a great pun name for Calendar Man.
Oh, so absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not gonna beat him up too much for putting in both.
I think I wouldn't mind both being in the issue, but I just feel like the way he kind of said it there was clunky.
No, yeah, it's very awkward.
Yeah.
Although I would have loved a Harley Quinn TV show esque where he just is like, I don't have time for your BS, Calendar Man.
I'm so glad it got renewed for a third season.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. All right, so the final story in the book is the Mariko Tamaki story with Dan Mora on art, whose art's very nice. I like the colors, especially the blinds, the start.
Cameron Von Villain. This is the art team on Once and Future. Dan Mora and great team.
This push through. I definitely need to read Once and Future. As if you telling me Beowulf in the second version.
The second art
wasn't enough.
What I will say, because this is set during Joker War, it mentions at the start. What I will say is that it says the Aparo Park District, which is fine. The only problem I have with that is that in the Bendis story they mentioned the Aparo building, so I thought it was kind of weird how both stories had an Aparo name thing. I
like when they do that sometimes. However,
do you know what? I'm gonna let it off because near where I live. Well, I mean, I say near. It's on the bus into the city. I have to go past a row of streets, and they're all Norman. I think it's Norman something. So you got Norman Street, Norman Mount, Norman Road, Norman Hill, Norman Grange, like 12 of them in a row like that. And I'm like, do you know what? I'm not bothered anymore when comics have the same reference in different places in the same city anymore. That's
fine, but you have Aparo Park and the Aparo building. You couldn't have changed that to something.
They're probably near each other.
Anyone, I don't know. Anyone else? I like it when they do that, when it honors people. You know, like it could have been O'Neill Park or the O'Neill building. You know, we just had Aparo in the other one.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So this is taking place during Joker War, and it kind of centers around a young cop who ends up going to the Wayne Tower. Lucius Fox is there, and basically by the end of the story, there's the clown criminals, you know, Joker's men or whoever who are there, but it actually ends up they end up thinking that Batman's behind whatever's been on there. I will say, I like Tamaki's writing, and I thought the narration was very good. I don't know if this story necessarily came across really well to me in the sense of really, like it feels like it's here to more set up. And
it didn't have much to do, and it was weird to me that you say that the Tomasi one didn't really do anything with the ongoing stuff. That by the end, this one's, you know, it's the Black Case book, and so it's like, you know, so that'll continue in Detective, and you know, the rest of this is the Joker War time. Like, I think it's perfectly fine and readable for what it is. I think the art's fantastic and gorgeous.
Oh, the art's gorgeous, yeah.
Dan Mora is fantastic, and you know, the colors, you know, the page with the fire where all the greens, the yellows, the reds are popping, the pink glow of the city a lot of the times through the window is just spectacular.
The narration in the story is Bruce talking about how the first thing he ever did that was kind of stealthy was when he was 6, he snuck down and started opening his Christmas presents, and it was like the one rule that he broke under his father.
It's for his birthday.
Yeah.
Because you had to wait, but you know, when you're 6 and you see a table stacked with presents, you don't have discipline. You know, so he's talking about the discipline of a 6-year-old. So yeah.
So I was a little bit muddled and didn't really have too much of a story to it, and I don't necessarily blame Tamaki for that, because if this is just setting up whatever's going on in Detective, because she's not taking over Detective, right? I'm not forgetting.
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just felt kind of tacked on.
It felt like obligatory tie-in story, even though I think, like I say, the narration's fine. The art is fantastic, but it just doesn't have much of a point beyond reminding us that these stories exist. You know, like Joker War is going on, and
which actually makes it
Facebook's coming up.
It actually makes it the biggest disappointment of the book, because I saw Tamaki and Dan Mora. I was like, oh yes, and the art is gorgeous and her writing's good, but I don't really blame her. I don't think it's like, you know, conceptually, I don't think she came up with a story. I think, you know, maybe the narration was her idea to give it some sort of, like, you know, through line, so it had something to sort of build a narrative out of. But the actual events of the story, I don't think are all that exciting. It doesn't really, you know, standalone wise, it just doesn't feel like it's doing much. So it ends in a bit of a downer, mostly just because I'm disappointed, because I thought, oh, I'll love the Tamaki one, because I usually love everything she writes. But she got saddled with the hey, tie into both of these things.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So hey, that was the last story of the book, though. So obviously the book as a whole will count towards things at the end, but I think it's probably worth saying what our favorite story in the issue is at this point before we rate it. So
yeah.
If people have favorites.
Mine's probably a toss up between the Jurgen story, just because of the timey-wiminess, but also I can't not love the Wolfman and Lupacino. That was written specifically for me, so I enjoyed it. I know it's not the best, but
I would have definitely not picked those.
I think I'm gonna go with the Fraction Zdarsky one, the Many Happy Returns. I love the pacing, just the point, the joke at the end, the art. Hitting all my beats.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Rookie one, with Rookie. I think that had a lot to say. But special shout out to the Bendis one as well, because I thought that was a lot of fun and really, celebrated all the other characters. But I was also pleasantly surprised with the Morrison one. No, honestly, like out of the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 stories, there was like maybe 3 I wasn't super into, maybe 4. So that's not bad going. Like, what's funny is if you take out all the ones that I don't like, you probably do have an 80-page special at that point, which is funny to me. It could have been the perfect 80-page special where I loved every story. But hey, I'll go with the Rookie one. All right, Matt, what are you giving the book out of 10?
I'm gonna give it a 7 because most of them were decent, and I didn't read 2 of them that might have knocked it down there. So yeah.
Connor?
Yeah, I'm also gonna give it a 7. And also I want to point out there's actually another pinup by Coipel at the back after the adverts for whatever's going on next.
All right.
That I didn't catch originally because I didn't click through far enough to see it. It's weird.
Yeah.
Weird place for that. I think you'd put it up towards the front,
especially when the front half had none.
Yeah. I'm a bit higher, I think, because even though there was a couple that I really didn't like because of the art or whatever, and Tamaki one was disappointing, but I think there's enough really good ones that I feel really positive overall, and a couple that I outright kind of loved. So I'm going to go with 8.5 on this one, which I think is fair overall. It's not an average. I'll always make that clear. Whenever we're rating an anthology about this, it's not an average between all the stories. It's more nuanced than that. Sometimes the ones that make you feel happier, outweigh the couple that don't make you feel so happy. But yeah, that was good. I thought as a special, it was a good celebration of the character. Obviously, it was huge. Helps that the week was quite quiet overall, though. Make it easier to fit in. So
that's if I had one more book this week, I probably wouldn't have read all of these, and I didn't even read all of them. So
if this was on like one of our typical like week 4 weeks, I think they have been recently. You'd be lucky if I read 3 of these.
So there you go. That's Detective Comics 1027. Though I know everyone's probably sick of talking about Batman, so let's talk about some Batman.
Yeah, I am.
Yep.
Let's talk about some more Batman. Batman 99. James Tynion IV, Jorge Jimenez on the art, and this is building up to issue 99 or issue 100. Sorry, it says issue 99.
Yep. Yeah.
We have the Bat family assembled, notably minus Damien, which apparently, as was alluded to,
that's what happens when you keep a secret jail. That's all.
Well, yes, one of the editors notices that he quit being Robin recently. Joker's living the high life in his limo. Clown Hunter's throwing clowns off roofs. But, which, by the way, as I say, before I get to the main gist of the issue, that 2-page spread of like the city on fire with like the Joker like talking about what the city is.
It's gorgeous.
It's very pretty. It's a very pretty page. Punchline's freaking out because she couldn't kill Batman. Joker's like, "That's fine. This is how it goes." Which, by the way, this is dark as shit. Joker's basically just walking through the building, killing his henchmen as he goes.
Yeah. Which I do like. This kind of shakes Punchline in that maybe Joker's not exactly what she thought, which is what Harley was trying to tell her. You know. So, because he is chaos personified, right? Like, his plan is there is no plan.
But yeah, we get to the Bat family have assembled, and my first thought on this page was, "Oh God, when is Dick changing his outfit?" And luckily,
I thought for a second that they were going to do some shitty thing where he was just going to be in that, and it was just a bait and switch on the cover, and I was like, "Don't you dare!"
No. Very quickly, Bruce says, "Hey, you need a change of clothes," and there's no bullshit here. Dick just says, thanks. And Bruce is like, it's good to have you back. And he's like, you too.
I have more on this outfit later.
What, the first outfit?
Yeah.
I
don't know. I've had it now.
Oh, is it in Red Hood?
It is.
That's fine. That's in the past. That's fine.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think the issue I read for Red Hood was the last issue of Red Hood, so it was only a few weeks ago.
Sure, but everything else is catching up to the fact that it's changed now. I'm sure.
It is, and it was still a Joker War tie-in.
Yeah.
That issue.
In a couple of months, we should be back to all Nightwing all the time, baby. So yeah, you got Dick, Jason, Babs, Tim, Spoiler, Orphan, Signal, and Harley, who's included in the I love how Batman's giving this speech. He's like, "Oh, you're all here because I believe in you." Blah blah. And I'm like, Harley Quinn is there, right? Batman, you realize that Harley's in the group right now?
Yeah.
The speech you're giving.
This is what we're talking about. I think it was last issue where she's kind of becoming an honorary member of the Bat family, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely good
Also,
at that path.
Until the back end of this.
Well, yeah. On Tim, quickly, obviously you guys were reading Young Justice and mentioned this. I thought he went back to being Robin, not Red Robin.
He did.
No, he did.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is in a weird timeline place where he's Red Robin. It explicitly says so. He's in that costume.
I don't know if it's a timeline thing or if it's just that they've decided after that Young Justice issue that they're still going to call him Red Robin because he's back in his red and green and all that. It's
right
because both this and the story and Detective both called him Red Robin.
Yeah, the Detective one though, I just could have taken a leave.
Sure.
Who knows? I could explain that away as continuity. Who knows what's going on in that issue?
You could. I think it's notable though that both of them, like in the same day, did it.
Yeah, it could be. This one here, it stood out to me because I thought it was just Robin, but I was like, is this supposed to be before he became Drake?
Yeah, he tasked them with taking the city back. Presumably, some of this stuff will be in their own books if they have their own books. It even mentions a story from Detective recently with Batwoman saving Lucius.
There's a lot of editors' notes. One of which at least was wrong, because I think it was in this book that talked about one of the editors' notes was for Batgirl 88.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not a thing.
It clearly meant Batman 88.
I don't know, because we already had a Batman 88 reference earlier in the issue, so it'd already done that one. It was a second one. I feel like they copied and pasted it, but forgot to change the issue number. So I don't actually know which issue of Batgirl it was referring to.
Okay. I'm sure they'll fix it later, or you could look it up, I suppose. I mean,
yeah.
Not the end of the world as far as mistakes go. But anyway, he gives them all these missions to take back the city. Bab is going to get to the clock tower and sort of coordinate. Dick's going to lead the team on the ground because he should be leading the team on the ground. Damn it, because he's Dick freaking Grayson. So that's all good. Meanwhile, Catwoman is with Riddler and Penguin, and they're going to rob all the money from the bank that's the front for the underbroker. This is actually a tease for Catwoman 25, which this was actually kind of nice because obviously this is out this week and I was going to read it anyway, and I read this first, so when it said Catwoman 20, I was like, oh, okay.
Do you know what? I opened up Catwoman 25 and then saw Joker War tie and I went, maybe I should read Batman first, just in case.
Yeah, I think it worked out better that way.
Yeah.
But it sets up what they're doing, and I do love these two full-page spreads as Batman...
basically covers.
Yeah,
right.
It's Batman arriving at Ace Chemicals, which is all covered in the green spray paint and everything else. It's that page of him just landing with a cape.
The shadow as well. The way that
it's got
gorgeous.
Do you know what it does? Like everything building up to this, where it's like cutting around the Bat family members, it's cutting around what Catwoman's doing. It feels like all this stuff's going on around the city to try and win the fight. And then it goes to just these clean, empty pages of just Batman arriving. It makes it feel like a big showdown. It makes it feel like Batman's arriving for the third act.
How rare is it in any comic to have two full-page splashes without any dialogue, any text at all, back to back?
It's effective. I think I saw some. I didn't read any reviews for this, but I did see a headline or two from some of the reviews saying that it was overstuffed and couldn't do much. And all I could feel when I read this was that the pacing was flawless because it made it feel like there was a lot going on, and then it just all grinded for this because. And intentionally, and I think it is effective. I think the feeling I got into these 2 pages after all the setting up of all the other characters was like, no, it all comes down to just this meeting between Batman and Joker.
I could understand the complaint of being overstuffed in the sense of a lot of it sets up for other books, but you don't actually see it here, and it feels like it's just fragments.
I think
I understand that critique.
a lot of the time I can agree with that in comics because comics can be guilty of that because it wants to have all these tie-ins. I think here it works really well though because you don't have to see what the other, and I don't plan on reading most of them, so that works out nicely. But I don't think you have to actually see what the others are doing so much. You know, if you think about it in the terms of a movie, think about like okay, all the side characters all have to go off and do their parts of the mission, and maybe you'll see glimpses of it a little bit, but it all comes down to what the main character's doing and what they're
No, I mean, I actually tend to, on this particular instance, agree with you that this issue is rather very good. I think that's where their complaint is coming from, and I can at least understand why people might feel that, even though I disagree with it.
I guess what I'm accusing them of is that they're jumping to the default comic book complaint, but ignoring the fact that it actually kind of works in this context. Which maybe they disagree with, but that's kind of my gut reaction.
There's a lot going on, and you feel overwhelmed, but that is how you should feel. Until Bruce goes off on his own, and then it gets...
I love the balls of doing 2 full pages like that back to back. It's so rare because I saw one. I was like, oh, that's a gorgeous page. Stop for a minute just to take it in, and then I turn the page thinking, okay, back to normal now, and then it surprises me by having another big page.
And even the fact that the first panel on the page after the 2 of those full page spreads is the gunshot, behind his foot or under his foot from Harley to sort of break the silence. Like it literally breaks the silence with a gunshot.
Yeah.
You can imagine like the silence in a movie is someone arrives in a scene and then having the gunshot kind of like snap everything back into action. Yeah. That's kind of what it feels like in the pacing.
Jump scare.
Yeah,
it's like a jump scare. You're right.
Also, Connor, I can't find that editor's note about Batman 88.
Maybe it was in Catwoman. Then
maybe it's in Catwoman.
It might have been in Catwoman.
Yeah, because I tried to look for it through here and I couldn't find one. So.
Yeah, there was one somewhere.
Maybe it's in Catwoman. It's in one of the books.
Because in here it's about Nightwing, and the 2 here, there's more for Catwoman. There's one about Nightwing, and then there's one for Detective.
Yeah, okay. So, it may have been in Catwoman then, but I definitely remember reading it.
Books are all blurring together, I guess.
Yeah.
But Harley's basically, here to say, look, I'm going to kill the Joker. And I thought that maybe you'd be willing to do it. You'd finally snapped out of it when you woke up from that toxin. But this has to end. Like, he's just going to keep doing more stuff. And I think, obviously, the debate of, should Batman just kill Joker to stop him hurting other people is something that comes up again and again. I think there's a really interesting thing here where you use Harley to actually argue for it. I think makes it a bit more interesting in this case, where she basically says, look, I won't kill him like outright, but if he takes you out or if he's about to take you out, I'm taking the shot and I don't give a damn about your code in that situation. And it's
the
really...
story needs to change.
Can I just say, Harley Quinn is a better Red Hood than Red Hood.
Yeah.
I'll get on board with that.
Because her clear motivation, right, at this point.
Right.
Is she's done dealing with the Joker. It took too much of her life away. And, she's willing to have the final word.
I like this. She's kind of playing like a similar side of role, though, isn't she? Where she's willing to do the lethal shit and actively advocate for it.
But it's coming... It's coming from a person who did love him and did kind of fall into the trap of who he is. So I think it has actually more weight coming from her because she understands him better than Jason ever has or probably ever will.
Right, and that was gonna be my point. Is she's closer than Jason. Also, Jason has the tie to Bruce that he ends up coming off like a whiny baby about killing people. Like, oh, just let me do it, Bruce.
Yeah.
And with her, it's like, no, I'm the only one that's seeing things clearly.
Yeah, because this never comes across from Harley here that she just wants to start killing people left and right. This is the Joker specifically. This has to end. And when she makes this
argument we've seen before.
Yeah, but when she makes this argument here and she makes this little speech about if he puts you down, then I'm putting him down. Like I'm going to kill him. I don't care what you believe. It needs an ending. When she says that, he has nothing to say. He just turns around and walks in. He doesn't have an answer for her because he knows that deep down, ultimately, if he does get put down, like he's the last best defense they've got for the Joker, really. If he goes down,
it's kind of an acknowledgement that if he fails here and he dies, then his code doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
There are more important things at that point, and Harley, fine, take the shot at that point.
He's never going to say it. He's never going to say, yes, no. I approve of you taking the shot if I go down. But him not saying anything here is him approving of it.
Yeah, the lack of a denial, the lack of shutting it down.
I'll say accepting of it, not approving. There's a difference. But no, wonderful. And of course, it ends. Joker's dug up Alfred's body, and because obviously we've seen him have these Joker Eye zombies that he's had recently.
I still hate the zombie thing.
Yeah,
it just doesn't seem like it fits. It feels like a little too much. That's my main problem with the Joker War stuff is you have enough chaos going on with all of the clowns and people just going nuts. Like the zombies are always a step too far, and I could accept it when you could think, oh, he's under the influence of some punchline toxin. But to have these back up like they were
because I think the point here is that Batman's trying to convince himself this isn't real, but I think the point is that it actually is. It is the dead body of Alfred that's been animated by Joker shit. What do you think of Joker's costume that he's put on here for this meeting?
It's the batsuit that Alfred built for Bruce from the
Oh yeah, but I mean, he's put a smile on it. He's put ha 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 over it. He's embellished.
He's like Gotham. He's perverted Batman's sense of what
he's literally stolen Batman's dream ideal for the future and ruined it. Yeah, and that's Joker in a nutshell, right?
Oh, it is. I know it's a fantastic issue. And I mean, I kind of agree with the zombie thing, but it's such a small part of this one that it doesn't really affect my enjoyment of it too much.
It's one of those things where if it was just by itself and that's what he was using to motivate, like that's what he was using to cause chaos and not the money and whatnot, then sure. But it's a hat on a hat. It's a little bit too much. I didn't need Alfred here after we had just done the...
I think just having him in the costume that Alfred made for him would have been
enough. Yeah. Right. I'll be interested to see what they do with it in the next issue, because I assume the next issue is oversized because it's issue 100.
I'll be shocked if it's not.
Yeah. I assume it's like a 50-pager.
I mean, we could probably just check solicits.
We could, yeah. You could check.
Is that still this month?
Yeah. No.
No, in October.
No. Yeah, I'll be the first one in October. But I'll be curious to see what they do with like the sort of this confrontation of having him have to sort of confront Alfred now, because because this arc has done a really good job. Like all that stuff in his head with Alfred a couple issues ago or last issue, was actually really well handled. So I'm actually trusting Tynion to do something good with it. But I thought
it's a $6.99 56-page book.
Oof, there you go. But this feels like it's fitting of a big finale, and I've enjoyed the arc so much that I'm kind of into the idea of a big finale for it. So. But no, I love the stuff with Ellie on the Joker and that, but honestly, it was the Bat family, it was the setting up the Catwoman stuff, because I love that her thing is the heist to get the money back. Like that's what she's going to go after. We'll talk about that in a minute when we talk about Catwoman, but no, I'm digging that a lot. So, and the art was gorgeous, especially those 2 pages. Even that 2-page layout early on with the Joker, like the City and Chaos page was great.
I just want to give a shout out to the lettering as well on the very first page. Joker's there, and he's got the typical Joker thing we've had in this book for a while, with the slightly slanted lettering, with the slightly wiggly bubble. But it's that bit where he gets up to his limo and he's like, it's the most ludicrous thing I've ever seen. I love it, and the I love it is completely different. There's little hearts, the color of the love's changed. It's so bold and big. Do you know what I heard it as almost? I heard it almost as Ewan McGregor's Black Mask in the Birds of Prey movie, with him being that campy gleefulness is the way that lettering came across. I thought it was a really nice touch.
I know I've dug this arc a lot. I dug the art a lot as well, but that's what I meant to say there. So, Matt, what are you giving Batman 99?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
99. Connor?
Yeah, 8.5 from me as well.
I'm tempted to give it an 8.9 just so I can shoot 99 again. But no, I'm going to go with a straight 9. I really dug this. I think Tynion's really finding a groove with his Batman stuff. It's not without faults, but the overall gist of what he's hitting, it's a lot like his detective run, where it's not perfect, but like the core ideas of everything he's doing.
You can feel the fact that he's a Snyder student from the Snyder school of thought, not in the exposition or anything like that, but just in the idea that he always wants to make every issue feel big and special and over the top. There's always maybe one idea too many, because he can't help himself. He's got to be big.
I think in the long run, he's proven himself to be more to my taste than Snyder himself, I think, just because I feel like Tynion so far, looking at his detective run, which I thought was good through to the end, and never felt like it betrayed what I liked about it, whereas Snyder's Batman kind of kept going bigger and bigger, and whereas,
that's fair.
So, yeah, there you go. That's Batman. I made an audible swap here just because it felt more natural to do Catwoman issue 25 next, because it obviously spins out directly from the Joker War stuff. So Ram V writing, Fernando Blanco, Jean-Paul Leon, and Jean Ferreyra on the art, which is a hell of a list of artists, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what how many goats Ram V decided to take out and sacrifice to some dark god to.
Judging by his beard, many.
Right.
But
and
was that an Alan Moore joke?
And I feel like he is channeling some Alan Moore energy. He's definitely got that vibe.
You got the big Alan Moore beard, you're a wizard. That's just
he's on his way to it.
Okay.
And the artist on Justice League Dark, I mean, he gets Paquette doing the covers, and the other guy, Nahopin, like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But anyways,
so yeah, you've got these gorgeous sort of inner head sequences with her like facing off with a tiger. It's all sort of orange and glowing, and that stuff's gorgeous.
Those pages, they stand out, and they're just spectacular.
Yeah. But the regular art's actually really good. It's the heist that's set up in Joker War. It's Catwoman breaking into this bank. You got Riddler on the computers, and you've got Penguin kind of running interference outside to stop any clowns from getting to them.
And that's it. It was this issue with the Batman 88, because it tells us that's when Penguin got his throat slit.
Ah, there you go.
Right.
So Catwoman's, and this is the thing, you're expecting, because obviously Catwoman's a good enough character at this point. We're expecting her not to actually give all the money to the villains. We're expecting her to give it back to Wayne because that's what's right.
Right.
So you're expecting for that turn to happen as you've got them bickering and stuff. I will say, Penguin with the rocket launcher did give me a chuckle. So just for the fun up until that point. But she makes the turn. She makes the twist, as it were. And they're like, "What are you doing? Oh, you sly minx, you're betrayed us." And gorgeous 2-page layout of Catwoman breaking out of the place.
And I love the flow of this. You can just follow her around and then down and then back across, and you never feel confused about where your eyes should be followed.
Yeah,
they lead you really naturally.
And the Penguin kind of predicted that she might double cross him and tries to corner an alley. It shoots her in the gut and is going to take her. And the only thing that really connects this to the previous run, and I think we actually did read enough to get introduced to this character, this detective, was it Hadley?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I did, but maybe you two did.
Matt's just yawning as loud as possible.
I'm sorry, I am tired.
I'm just acknowledging it because it's better to acknowledge it for everyone that we're.
I know.
Matt's an unprofessional bastard. What do you want?
Yeah. So Catwoman, he swoops in and saves her. She wakes up on his couch wherever he's staying in Gotham, and maybe he does keep popping up in the run, but it's kind of this thing where she thanks him and Batman's out of the scene.
Okay with this, even though I've not read anything with him, and it felt a bit abrupt for me, kind of just coming in with, oh, who's this guy? Something I've been a big supporter of is having supporting cast.
Oh, sure, for sure.
That carry across runs, not just one writer will use them and then they're forgotten, and the next one makes someone new.
Which is something that I'm actually excited for in one of the stories in this, but we'll get to that in a second. So she goes and sees Luke Fox and sort of gives him all the money, and with some additional money, saying, "Hey, this is from the criminals of the Gotham, so you can distribute this amongst some people who need it."
Yeah, basically. And I would not be surprised if this leads into how he has money for his upcoming tenure as a Batman.
Maybe he's like, "Oh, I will spend this on my Batsuit."
Yes,
kind of
it wouldn't surprise me. And it is here. It's see Batgirl 88 for where Luke goes after this.
Do you know what?
I was like, I don't know what is that 48? It could be any issue with Batgirl though.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just read that as Batman 88, even though it makes no sense. Or maybe I read it as 48 because I know it's ended at 50. Maybe that's what I assumed it was. But and Batgirl makes a bow in her dream because the stuff with her with the tigers it's sort of playing off. What did I say?
You said Batgirl.
I said Batgirl. That's because we're talking about Batgirl.
Yeah.
But it's sort of playing off whatever sort of struggle she's in, so it sort of represents it as a dance.
She tamed the beast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But for me, I thought that was enjoyable and a nice tie into the what's going on in Joker War. For me, the second story, which is clearly setting up what Ram V is going to be doing in his run, I thought was very good and has me very excited. And I love the Jean-Paul Leon art. I've always liked the art from him.
His stuff's always gorgeous.
Yeah, it's basically her going back to what's the alley called?
Alleytown.
Alleytown, that's it. Where she grew up. And was a bit of a punk. She was pickpocketing and stuff like that. And she runs into these three kids who try to steal everything from her in a series of little, daring moves. And obviously the joke is that the two who try to pickpocket her realize that they have been pickpocketed afterwards, and the one who tries to hold her at gunpoint obviously is, his gun is taken away from him, he's left upside down. And when they go back to their hideout, it's this abandoned building. It used to be where she grew up, where like the boss who was in charge of all the punks back in her day, and she's bought the building, so this is setting up her new base of operations. And she's like, look, basically she's going to take them all in and kind of be their mentor, and she's the new boss in town, and presumably is going to, maybe give them a moral code and not just have them. This
is her team of Robins. She's having a cat family.
Essentially, because she kind of points out that the kid with the gun is like, look, the punks, most of the words she used, the grunts need guns because they don't have anything else. Goons, that was it.
Goons. Are you goon or are you a grifter?
Grifter, yeah. And grifters are smarter. Grifters aren't just, thugs.
Right. And that's, Alleytown needs their basically their mother figure, like she had, that taught her. Yeah. So, but no, I like that, and it's especially coming off of a week where I got blocked by a guy on Twitter for correcting him what a hockey goon is. Seeing this pop up, I was just like, see, Catwoman gets it.
It's funny.
Goons don't have honor. That's it. That's the big, So yeah.
That's but that's a good setup for the new story direction. Because it feels like a true starting point. And when I was like, oh, you know what? I was kind of intrigued by I like the writing in the first story, but this was the story that made me go, I will read the next one now. I want to read more of this now.
Do you know what I'm going to compare this to in some ways? This is the first issue of Action Comics PAX run, which I also think was actually issue 25, if I recall, where the first issue was this tie-in to Zero Year, which is like, it was completely unrelated to what the main book was going to be, but it was like, oh, that was a damn good issue. I'm really interested, and I kind of feel that here, where I'm like, okay, this is actually just this one feels like it might actually be setting up what's going on, but the main story is this Joker War tie-in.
Yeah, but
I like the voice.
The beauty of this though is that we actually have two other stories in this, which are both setting up the run. So it's actually like we almost got 26 along with it to get the taste of what the run actually is going to be. So I like the idea of her having this supporting cast and her sort of like having this sort of ragtag group of misfits who she's going to presumably give a sense of honor to. And
I believe Blanco is staying on as the regular artist, which is actually really interesting to have this continuity artist between the runs, because obviously he did a lot of the stuff with Joel Jones's run.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
On there.
The final page of this one is this gorgeous page of Catwoman looking out the window with the doves flying in,
looking down on Alleytown.
Yeah. So as much as I like that one though, the final story in this issue is,
I knew it. This is the. Like, if I'm a self-parody on certain things, I knew Pete was going to love this story.
Do you know what? As someone who hates cats,
yes,
I like this because it just goes to show cats are dicks.
The
whole inner monologue of this cat is, I'm a dick.
Yeah.
So it actually took me a couple of boxes of narration to realize that it was the cat who was narrating and not Selena. It wasn't immediately obvious to me, and then I realized, it's this cat who's actually casing, because Selena's moving in. She's got the kids helping her move into her new apartment in this building.
Yeah.
And this cat's like watching from the balcony, and he's basically talking about how, this human's strange, and she's got a routine. I'll wait. She's blah blah. And it's kind of weird. Her costume, makes her like she's just that's absurd. And I love that the cat's actually kind of like being kind of pompous about everything and like looking down on her. It's like, no, I'm going to sneak in. And this is what I love about it, is that it treats the cat like the cat's actually performing a heist like Selena would. So the cat's trying to sneak into her house to go for the biggest treasure of all.
Literally has some dialogue from the cat on narration saying, having completed my reconnaissance, I will make my move tonight.
Yes. I love this. I love giving pets or animals like this voices like this, and I think that the way when the cat's going in, it's like, okay, I must not be distracted by the temptation, because there's like a hamper of like a ball of string. It's like, must not be tempted by these things.
1,000 traps and temptations await, but I will not be deterred.
Right, but then when Selena does catch the cat, and it's into the jewelry, because that's the shiny stuff, and it's got like the bangle around its neck, and like there's rings and jewels just flying, because obviously Catwoman has this lying around because she's Catwoman. and he comes down and it's like, okay, I must play coy. The first method of not being like, you know, trapped is cuteness. So puts his head down to get petted, and then the claws, and then makes a run for it.
I love that when Catwoman comes in and it's, you know, it's been distracted by all the shiny things. It's like, fool, I allowed myself to be distracted.
I know, I love this. And my favorite line here was actually where it basically paraphrased Rorschach from Watchmen. Like, she thinks I'm trapped in here with her. I love it so much. And then Selena puts out something for it to eat or drink, and she's like, this one's coy. Well played, woman.
Crafty.
Yeah, crafty, yeah. It just ends with these two close ups to the cat and Selena just staring at each other. And I'm like,
well played, woman. Well played.
Yeah. And I love the idea that my cats think like this every time I'm being nice to them. I was like, oh, okay, you won me over again. Okay, I'll be cute. This was phenomenal. Ram V has got me on board for issue 26. The man's a genius. What can I say?
Honestly, between, me and Matt have been very much enjoying his work on Justice League Dark. But it was interesting to come into this and like, okay, what can he do elsewhere? Because I don't think we'd read anything else by him.
It's a weird 3 stages thing, because you have the first story, which is a really solid tie-in to an ongoing thing that's really well written. So I was like, that was pretty good. And then you have a really good setup story for the run, which already convinced me to read the thing. And then it hit me with this. It hit me with the cat perspective.
Just something different. This is where I got some extra pages to play, 'cause it's issue 25. We'll have some fun.
Gold.
So I was just looking up Ram V, see what else he's worked on. And you go to his website, and it says he's an award-winning author, creator of comics and graphic novels such as Paradiso, These Savage Shores, Graffiti's Wall, and Ruin of Thieves. His short stories and comics have appeared in several anthologies. Most recent work includes Batman Secret Files. Conspirator and troublemaker at White Noise Studio, Ram currently lives in London, is a dog person, doodles, augmentative melancholic. So, the fact that he goes out and says he's a dog person.
Cat as a dick. It's
right.
very telling,
because I want to.
What's so funny to me though
on some of the other stuff
is I feel like you're saying like, the cat's a dick and he's a dog person, so this all tracks, and I'm like, but this is why I love cats. That's for me. This is just a reinforcement of why cats are the best.
Right. I'm just that he decided to put that in his, bio, basically first page, but. I want to see some of the
British Circle of Writers that I have a lot of following, like Gillen, for example.
Yeah,
I recommends his stuff a lot.
I did not know Ram 5 was in the UK.
5. That's how I still read it.
Every single time. But I'm becoming a fan, and Marvel's loss was DC's gain, because he was supposed to do a tie-in to some. It might have been Empire or whatever. He was doing he was meant to do a Thor tie-in mini, like a 4-issue thing, and then everything hit, and a bunch of the stuff got cancelled, including his Thor thing. And he said he was disappointed they never saw the light of day, but it ended up him is what led to him taking a lot of extra DC work by the sounds of it.
Yeah. So and they've got a new guy.
Well, I wasn't reading Just League Dark, obviously, so I hadn't discovered his skill yet, but I'm on board.
Yeah.
It's always impressive when a writer can win you over in one issue.
It is, yes. And I think because he had 3 stories to do it, and it gave me a nice range of here's a nice range of what he can actually do. So it was here's these tie-in skills, here's these individual story skills and for his run, and then here's a weirder idea that you might pull out from time to time. And I'm like, okay, I've been sold on all 3 fronts.
Yeah, because the tie-in part is probably the weakest overall, but that's kind of normal for tie-ins. I expect every tie-in to be a rung below whatever they're doing in the regular book. Like every time I just okay, you're gonna do a tie-in. It'll be probably fine if it's a good enough writer, but rarely is exciting. So the fact that you can handle that all right on the first issue is always a good sign.
Yeah. So very good. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Matt, about?
No. I was just looking. Apparently, there's a book called Brigands that looks very up mine and Connor's alley.
He was tweeting just today or yesterday that he's got a new book approved. It's been pitched and it's approved for sometime next year. Hoping it's a DC book.
All right, Matt, what are you giving?
I'm gonna give this the collection story. I'm gonna give it an 8. It's all pretty solid. The art in particular really sets it above.
Yeah. Also, just to mention, Ferreyra, of course, we used to love talking about on a regular basis with Green Arrow, and I feel like he's been gone from DC for a while.
He's been doing a lot of Marvel work over the last couple of years.
Yeah, so it was nice to see him back for at least for this one story. What are you giving it, Connor?
I'm going to give it an 8.5. I loved a lot of it. And the art, I felt like it got better with every story. I mean, to my tastes. And it was already at a high bar. Blanco,
yeah, I feel like for me, it peaked with Jean-Paul Leon and then went down a little bit. But I mean, a little bit. Like, I still love Ferreyra. So
I think Ferreyra's stuff just was an extra notch. I think the colors really popped in his story. I think it was the same colorist that we had in Jean-Paul Leon's stuff. I think, off the top of my head. It was, yeah, I'm just double checking that wasn't wrong. But obviously they're a lot flatter in that story. Whereas in this third story, they've got a gorgeous glow to them that I just really like.
Yeah. I'm probably going to give it... I'll agree with the 8.5. I think, honestly, as much as... Even though I thought the tie-in issue story was really good, I think if that wasn't here and it was just a regular-sized issue with the two last stories, I might have even given it the 9.
I probably would have done as well. I think those two are 9s, and the first story was like an 8.
Yeah.
So it kind of balances out.
Yeah. So there you go. That's Catwoman 25. Solid start to a new run, all things. Justice League 53, Joshua Williamson writing and Xermanico on the art. This is our first in a 5-part tie-in story to
Doom Metal.
To Death Metal, called Doom Metal, yeah. So, which obviously is the most exciting Justice League's been. Even though I enjoyed some of the fill-in stuff that they've been doing, this is definitely the most relevant and interesting it's been.
It's tying into Metal, which honestly has been a really fun event so far, and most of the tie-ins have been at least enjoyable.
You know, Joe, I was looking at this cover again, Matt. Do you know what Nightwing is kind of looking like on there to me with his garb? I'm getting some sort of like Warhorse vibes to the wrestler.
Yeah.
What is it? Was it the last Metal where we got Nightwing in the other outfit? I think it was like the Frozen outfit, maybe.
Oh yeah, he had like an outfit in the first Metal. You're right. Yeah, he did.
And I don't know what it is with Metals just giving Nightwing crazy outfits. I think it might have been Liam Sharp that did that one as well. Obviously, he did the cover here.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
No, it does.
Yeah. Nightwing rules ass.
So this, it does. He literally does. So this is it starts off with like a flashback of the first time Dick saw the Justice League, which was by accident. He was actually just trying to sneak up on Batman to prove that he could. But then when Batman got out the Batmobile, it turns out he was at a Justice League meeting. He was like, shit, I don't want to sneak out now. I'll just have to hide.
I love that the second panel of this issue is a young Dick Grayson clinging onto the underside of the Batmobile as it speeds down the road.
He's a very athletic young individual, you know?
No, he is, but also just to see if he could is the most Dick Grayson. Right there is more Dick Grayson than we've gotten in the last 2 years.
I know. Nice touch as well that the Justice League has Hal Jordan there, because it's meant to be obviously back in Dick's days as Robin, so it makes sense. So it talks about how the Justice League would achieve all these things, which sets us up into the Doom Metal, where he's now on Earth. He's got a robot horse, which he got from Themyscira. Diana gave it to him because she's generous that way.
Which checks out. That's something Hephaestus would have made, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So so that all goes.
Yeah, and Dick's looking for Detective Chimp, for Bobo, to help find where the throne is, because the throne, which is made up of the Legion of Doom, which are powering Perpetua's throne, they want to try and take that away. That's his mission, his team's mission. And Hawkgirl also shows up here, of course, as well. Some action with them fighting some of these...
So I don't know if you guys have
creepers?
read Birthright, the
nope.
his book, Williamson's.
No.
But it features a barbarian, dark-haired hero and a winged lady that swings around and beats people.
So this feels familiar, is what you're saying.
Big Birthright vibes, just from the get-go. And I'm behind on that book because of the pandemic and whatnot. So I have them stacked up to read. But yeah, man, she his Hawkgirls remind me of Raya, and then his Nightwing looks like Mikey. So it was just he's right into his groove. So if you
does anyone in Birthright have a robot horse?
No robot horse. There's plenty of other fantasy. You would like the book a lot, Connor, if you get some time with all of the other stuff. Yeah. But so yeah, if you enjoy this and you're listening, go check out Birthright, because it's much more of this Without superheroes, of course.
I will say that's probably the most
own.
I've been interested in both. Right, not that I ever thought it was bad, but you know, Williamson I liked for the most part. Obviously, I fell out with his Flash after a while, but I still overall liked Williamson.
Yeah, Batman Superman's been good, and
but I never had any drive to check out his Birthright book. But you saying that this kind of hits similar vibes has me interested.
Yeah. So
Mike's going. So, basically, Bobo is not really wanting to help. He's basically given up and thinks that there's no hope of anything ever changing or getting better.
Given in.
But Dick and Hawkgirl basically encourage him to get him to help, because he is, of course, a good detective. And they go to the Hall of Justice, and they're upset to find that what he's actually led them to is Lex Luthor. And I think it's really interesting here that we're using sort of the team led by Dick Grayson to sort of interact with Luthor on the side of this, where Luthor now obviously wants to take down Perpetua, now that he feels wronged. And it's interesting hearing him talk about becoming Apex Lex now, kind of in hindsight, that he's kind of like beyond that now. And I don't know, intriguing to see how they tackle this, but very much an uneasy alliance is going to be forming here. And he does talk about the protection that the throne has, which does keep moving to avoid attack.
Right.
But its protector is a creation built out of the Guardians of the Source Ball. It's called the Omega Knight. So if you were sick of new versions of Batman,
but you know what? It checks out in what they're doing in Death Metal. It's consistency.
It felt reminiscent of like a callback to the very first pages of the first Metal with the Megazord Justice League.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
But yeah, no, I know I can see it might come all over the place, but I do like when they go out of their way, like, you know, Black Monday, the Solomon Grundy Batman, like that's just fun, right? And here with the Omega Knight, it's the same thing, and it is pulling it back to No Justice, because these are those things, right, that were coming.
This is what that event, that 4-issue, was all about.
So I like that.
Yeah. So the ending is basically Lex saying that Martian Manhunter's already tried. He's already on his way to fight and try and, like, you know, take the throne. And the last page is this full page spread of Martian Manhunter fighting the Mindhunter, which is the Dark Bat version of Martian Manhunter.
Yeah. Shout out to the art a little bit just before that, where Lex is telling the story. He hasn't named Martian Manhunter yet, but he says, you know, a hero went to free them. And you just see the silhouette, and immediately, just from the silhouette, the way the cape is, I was like, that's Martian Manhunter.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you see it without silhouette, but it's still from behind in the next page. He's very small in the frame, but you can sort of start to see more of him, then the final page actually reveals it. So, yeah, I mean, it's mostly a setup issue. It's setting the table for what the goal of this book is, what the mission for these characters are. I assume more are going to join along the way. In fact, I think there may be more on some of the covers that we've already seen. And
probably.
Yeah, they're going after this throne. So yeah, it gives them a clear mission. It gives a lot of these characters something to do. It is kind of interesting how obviously this is set after Dick coming back, because he's Nightwing again, right? We're not doing any of this
Yeah, there's a
crap.
whole bit about that Bobo is just like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't ask for your life story. I just asked why you had a metal horse.
Yeah. Just real quick, if Mindhunter is an amalgam of Martian Manhunter and Bruce Wayne, do you have to set his parents on fire to defeat him?
That's very dark, but
I'm just saying, like,
maybe this Batman Mindhunter, his parents weren't shot; they were burnt at the stake. And that, you know, that's why his biggest fear isn't guns; it's fire.
Fire.
I can see it. I can see it. This was a fine tie-in issue. I mean, I'm going to enjoy this as supplemental material. It doesn't feel like a misread by any means, but
no, it's definitely
fun though, and I think having great art really helps. I hope Xermanico's on most of it, if not all.
Yeah, this is the Williamson that I know and love from before he took over Flash, and
kind of adventure.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, he has done Nailbiter too, which gets into more psychological horror tropes, but I think it's pretty pulpy as well. So the fact like this is like this fun, even though it's called doom metal, I'm sure it's gonna get dark. But like it's him riding a metal horse, talking with Detective Chimp. You know, like how much more do I need?
It's like a dystopian fantasy.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the genre I would describe it as,
Yeah.
and I'm here for that.
All right, Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Plus Xermanico art. Can't
Connor?
talk about that enough. But yeah.
I'm gonna go with the 8. I think it probably would have been a 7.5 if it weren't for Xermanico, pulling it up.
Yeah, I'm going to go the lowest here. Go to a straight 7. I thought it was enjoyable read. Good art. I like the tie-in stuff. Yeah, it's definitely the weakest thing I read this week, though, overall, which is the sign of a good. I mean, it's only 4 books, admittedly, but hey, good week. I was very pleased with a lot of pretty much all the books I read this week, so that's good news. So yeah. Also, just before we got to Connor's Patriot book, I thought it occurred to me as we were talking about things there. Matt, you have to watch The Boys. You just
I'll get there.
Yeah.
I'm rebounding from hockey season. I'm slowly getting back into things. I gotta get caught up on Lovecraft Country.
I'm at the point now where I almost want to do like a Mystery Science Theater commentary track for Batman v Superman, only just so that I can call Superman Homelander every single time I refer to him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is a scene where Homelander and Black Noir, threaten each other with blood. And this is a scene where Lois Lane says, "Laser my effing tits," and so on.
Okay. All right. I did notice the Aya Cash showing up as Stormfront, which I thoroughly enjoy that actress.
She's been very good.
Worst.
Yeah, she's been very good so far. Yeah.
So
delightfully hateful.
Yeah, what's so impressive about it is it's such a dark satire that's darkly funny at times, but it's also got so much heart that I think you'll be into it.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed the first season, so I'll get to it. I have a list of other things to get through that were put on hold because of sports. So
stupid sports ruining everything. All right, so one last thing then before we get to all the wrap up stuff is Connor's got a Patreon book, Red Hood, 40 something.
48. I'm on the cover now.
Oh, you're correct. Oh, good news.
Yeah. It's obviously Lobdell writing with Brett Booth on art. I'm not even saying, like, often in issues I am salvaged by some decent art. Until recently, anyway. Do you know what really hurts as well? The cover eyes. It's a Dan Mora and Tamara Bonvillain doing the cover. So I'm like, oh, that's a nice cover. And then you open it up and it's freaking Brett Booth. That's just cruel. I'm confused by just the placement of this issue. So this is a Joker War tie-in, and this is actually, I'm going to say this part of it is not Lobdell's fault because that's clearly an editorial demand, right? But it's a very, very weird place in the story to throw and do a crossover. It's not like it's in the middle of an arc. Last issue had, I say, if you recall, I'm sure neither of you do. It had the past versions of the Outlaws. Jason, you had Roy and Starfire showing up, through in this place there, that Chamber of All.
That seems familiar.
Yeah, and they, and that was the final cliffhanger was, holy shit, it's us in the past. Was the cliffhanger, and this opens with, like, the first page is a full page splash kind of, except the top like third is kind of cordoned off, and it's like it's in like a sepia tone. It's a current present day Red Hood going Roy, and then it's Roy going technically Arsenal. Notice the mask. What's wrong with you? You look like you've seen a ghost. And it's like, okay, so this is directly picking up where we left off, and then it does like a page rip sort of thing, like that's like been ripped out by the rest of it, and underneath you have just Red Hood riding on a bike in Gotham, and then the credits show an untold story of the Red Hood just in time for the Joker War crossover. And I'm very confused because are you telling me everything in this run has been after the Joker War crossover now? Because there's some serious timeline things, discrepancies popping up here, and I just you can't do an untold tale as if this is in the past, in the middle of this present story. Like, it's such a bizarre cutaway choice that I just do not understand. And it doesn't help the rest of the issue is terrible, don't get me wrong, but just on the very first page, I was like, what is going on here? Why is this happening? But basically, you know, Red Hood's riding around Gotham, trying to do some stuff. Joker is doing Joker War shenanigans, eating pizza like he does, I guess. Sends Punchline on it. Although, somehow I'm going to mention, it never named Punchline this issue, and it's really weird. The first bit here, it's a bit of a tease, because he's like, oh, I'll put the best woman on the job, right? And it's Punchline in silhouette, you know, in the deep shadows, just going to say, always. And it cuts away. It's Jason talking about Margun's school and, you know, all the origin history stuff. You got some flashbacks to his early days with Bruce, some terrible dialogue. It was, you know, Jason saying, oh, I'm not going to be friends with you. And Bruce being like, you know, I got you accepted into Margun's home. Just wanted to make sure you're happy.
Hey, we've just been reading that on previously, because I'd never read any of that Margun stuff before.
Yeah, and then Jason's dialogue. This is young Jason, obviously, you know, pre Robin days, but just after he's met Bruce. Actual dialogue here. OMG, so happy I could squeak. And all of this flashback is all black and white except red, which is just really, really, really red.
Right.
Like vibrant red, not like subtle, just in your face, as if you didn't get it. But Jason, you know, he gets into Margun's home. It's all abandoned, obviously. And he's like, you know, oh, I can hear a sound I'll never forget. The sound of metal on flesh and bone. You know, I heard it again and again the night I died. I was like, oh, this is terrible. And it's Punchline beating up Joker's daughter. And this is where I've given Lobdell credit in the past on this run for doing a good job with kind of throwing up name bubbles when, you know, characters appear. Just, you know, for people who are unfamiliar, you know, just to remind you. And I know Punchline is the hot new thing that's going on, but hypothetically, if you were just reading Red Hood and you were not reading anything else from DC, you don't keep up with the news, you didn't know who Punchline was, this would be terrible. Because, you know, she's there, she's got a crowbar that she's, you know, hitting Joker's daughter with. And she's like, oh, you know, were you expecting someone else? And, you know, and he goes, oh, no idea who this lady is. But, you know, that's Joker's daughter. And Punchline starts to say, my name is, and then before she, you know, she finishes, you know, it cuts off with Jason going, yeah, no interest. And never actually says her name for the rest of the issue. And I'm like, this is really weird. Like, that's really jarring, especially in this run, which has been quite consistent at naming characters. But yeah, I guess I guess Jason and Duella Dent have a bit of a history that I don't remember, because they obviously know each other, and, you know, and he's trying to save her, and it goes badly. Punchline blows up the place; it's all on fire, and Jason's carrying her out. And I'm not sure if she's dead or not. It's hard to tell. I don't think she is. But then this is where I found out that one of the goons that Jason was fighting all issue, you know, just some guy in a clown mask, you know. You see him all the time, right? In Joker War. Turns out that was Dick Grayson.
Oh,
you know that outfit with the red shoulders that he was wearing in Batman. That was what he's been wearing while he's been mind controlled by the Joker and been doing his bidding. And he's been running around in Joker War in the city, terrorizing citizens and working with Punchline.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, I do not want to read any of this shit ever.
No, I'm glad that's over now, though.
Yeah.
God, I'm so lucky.
But yeah, they're like, you know, they're like, oh, you know him. What's he going to be like? And, you know, Jason's like, oh, you should know. He can be obsessive. He's not going to accept that she's dead until he finds a body in the wreckage. And she's like, oh, already taken care of. He'll assume that the homeless girl's body was left as the Joker's daughter. And they've got her there. That was the end. Yeah, because they're in like the back of an ambulance van that they've obviously sold, giving her a Joker's face back. Yeah, that's it. And then it's like Joker War continues in Nightwing 74, and the end of the Outlaws begins in Red Hood 49. Thank God. But this was a bizarre issue. Like, and I don't even like. I can't even blame Lobdell too much for the tie-in element of it, because obviously this was forced by editorial. I'm sure he didn't volunteer for this. But it was such a terrible place in the story to do it, even though I didn't care about the story. Just structurally, this huge cliffhanger. And then it's not even like we just pretend that didn't happen. We're just going to do a one shot. It actively addresses it in the very first page by going, yeah, we know this is going on. Well, don't worry about it. And then cuts away to this thing that was supposed to be an untold tale that happened before all the stuff that's been going on. But this stuff has been going on for so long that the timeline, even by comic standards, is questionable. Very, very frustrating. And you know, it's Booth on art. It's exactly what you expect. Lots of really rough, just, you know, very loose pencils. You know, lots of the extreme motion lines that he likes. The really massive faces.
To me, Booth's the worst of the 90s style.
Yeah.
So I know people that like that, it's not for me.
This is not like particularly good or bad Booth. It's par for the course, exactly what I expect from him. But I mean, I don't like that, so it's not a great place to start. But yeah, that's it. I'll give it a 3.
Yikes.
All right. Okay, well, that takes us out of the part of the show. We pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel/moment, favorite cover, best artist, and of course rank the top 5 books, or in this case probably 4, since there was only 4 books. So Matt, you can kick us off with panel/moment.
Dang. I'll pull from Justice League, and I didn't really put too much thought into this, but I do like seeing Nightwing back. Actually, I'm gonna give the Nightwing back from Batman. Sure. Back in the suit. Yeah, I'll go that one.
Connor?
I'm gonna go from Catwoman, the final story. Just the fool. I've allowed myself to be distracted. It made me laugh.
You son of a bitch. Because it's basically, I mean, I was basically just going to pick the whole thing, to be honest. Neither
of you picked one of the. You guys went on and on and on. While I was searching for this editor's note that didn't exist.
The 2 pages.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, that's I mean, that, and then the sort of uplifting moments from the end of the Ruckus story.
Yeah.
Were both heavy contenders. I'll tell you what, I'll take the Batman. Since Connor took the Cat one, I will take the Batman full pages. But let it be known how much I enjoyed that Cat story. Alright, best cover then of the week. Obviously there's a bunch of Detective Comics variants, if any of those tickle your fancy.
I'm trying to look through them, there's so many.
There's a Berhamo Catwoman variant, which is quite nice. I think I have to go with the variant to Batman though. It's the Clown Hunter one. Which I'm not actually sure. The League of Comics Geeks, Tomumori, I think, was the variant artist. I'm not 100% sure though. It's kind of confusing.
Let me have a look.
Because it says Jimenez is cover artist and variant cover artist, which is weird.
Yeah. Jimenez did the regular cover and the Nightwing one.
Okay, yeah. So yeah.
Mori's the colorist. I think that's the Derek Chew cover is the one you're referring to.
Oh yeah, okay. It's not very clear in the listings here who's done what, but yeah.
Yeah, it never is. I'm pretty sure that's the Derek Chew one.
Yeah. I did look through the Detective Comics covers, and there's some nice ones, but nothing stuck out to me as being better than a couple of these other options.
I really like the Bamea one from Detective Comics. It's him on the gargoyle. It very much reminds me of I think he might have done a cover very similar to that for Detective 1000.
Yeah, I think I like his Catwoman cover more. But one of the things I do love about Berhamo is the texture that he puts onto the clothes.
It feels like real material, doesn't it?
Yeah, which is why I like the Catwoman one so much. It looks like real like leather or whatever. So,
yeah.
Matt?
I'm gonna go with the Justice League Liam Sharp.
Sure.
It just looks fantasy apocalypse. It's real cool.
Connor?
Yeah, I'm trying to look through some of these detective variants. It's hard to tell who a lot of them are.
Yeah.
I really like the Dodson's one. I like the Mayor one. The Sirens one. And there's one that's near the top on League of Comic Geeks where it's like a Batman kind of with his cape out going into the Joker's face. That's really nice. I have no idea who that one is because the signature is just like a little circle.
Yeah, that one looked up from what I saw of it, yeah.
I think ultimately I'm going to settle with the Catwoman variant. But I just want to shout out those couple.
All right. So best art of the week. This is an interesting problem we have this week, because not only is obviously Detective got a bunch of different stories in it with different artists, even Catwoman has 3 different stories with 3 different artists in it.
Yeah, I think for me, Detective rules itself out by having multiple artists I can't stand.
That's fair. I mean, there is something
else, they don't raise it up enough.
There's something to be said that Catwoman has 3 different artists, but they're all of a very solid quality to amazing quality, depending on which one you're on.
Yeah, but then Batman,
Jimenez.
Yeah,
and then you got Xermanico on Justice League. It's not many books, but good choice of quality.
It's really the dilemma when Lou Pacino, who's my favorite artist, is in the in a book this week, and I'm not even thinking about it. It could be the Sienkiewicz inks and coloring too, but the other 3 books I think are a lot stronger.
Yeah, I'm really torn between Batman and Catwoman for this. Because on the one hand, Batman has those moments, we talked about the pacing and how much it added to the feel of the epic blockbuster nature of it. But then Catwoman, like the fact that it has 3 different stories by different artists, and yet somehow the standard is so high across the board, that's impressive on its own as well.
It is, and also I think those stylized, kind of painted pages in Catwoman might be the standout pieces of art of the week for me. I think I'm gonna have to go with Catwoman overall. I think it's just such a high standard across it all.
Matt?
Man, I really want to go to Jimenez, but sorry, Will. I'm gonna go Jimenez.
That reminded me of a joke I really like on the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where Spike there's something, there's the episode where the ghosts happen because there's too much sex, but Spike says, oh, like, you know what, I don't like you guys, you do this, you do that, you always beat me up, you always do this, and then he's like, you know what, actually that was all pretty convincing, and he just walks away, because he was making the speech where he's like, but I'm going to help you anyway, I'm going to help you fight the big bad, but he then goes, no, actually that's all good reasons just to leave, bye. Right. And just walks away. I am going to go with, and I hate that you both picked different ones, so now I have to split the tie.
You could choose Xermanico and make it obsolete.
Nah, I think Xermanico was easily the weakest of the 3. I know it was bad, but
no, it was still very good art. But it was
it was never in contest for me this week. I am going to say Batman, and the reason why I'm saying Batman is because while it's impressive that Catwoman keeps the standard up across 3 stories, I think the fact that we're even talking about Jimenez and what as one artist who did enough with his one story to compete makes it technically slightly more impressive. But
I agree, but I think it says a lot that, at least for me, even if you take out the other 2 smaller stories from Catwoman, the backups, and go just the main, Joker War story with Blanco's art, that would still be on par with Jimenez for me. And would be, a tough decision in its own way.
It wouldn't for me. I think if it was just that story versus Jimenez, it'd be an easier choice. I still picked Jimenez, but it'd be a slightly easier choice if that was the case. So there you go. So then rank the books then. And it was a good week, so this should be a quite happy list. Matt, where'd you go?
So I hate that this has happened, but the number's been crunched, and I have to put Batman as number 1 on this stupid day.
On Batman Day.
Number 2 is Justice League. 3 is Catwoman, and 4 is Detective Comics 1027.
Okay, interesting. So,
I tried to put Justice League number 1, but I just could not. Jimenez is too much.
It's Bat Day, and Batman has put Batman as his number 1 book on Bat Day. Carter, what's your rankings?
I'm standing with Catwoman, which is a Bat family book, but there's only one other choice this week that's really not. But that's number 1, and then Batman at 2, Justice League at 3, and then Tech at 4.
Yeah, I think I will go with Batman at number 1, Catwoman at number 2, Detective at number 3, and then Justice League at number 4. And also, technically, Connor has Red Hood at number 5, just to put that out there.
Patreon books don't count.
when it's
Otherwise, I might have had that Dan Mora cover in consideration, and I didn't. It doesn't count.
It's the newest issue. It's the newest issue, so I feel like yes. If anyone
didn't come out this week, doesn't count.
Okay. All right. There you go. I will. I've got some Patreon books to do next week. I got American Vampire, and I have a new one to do actually this month. Next week I'll be reading Grant Morrison's Animal Man issue 1, so you can.
Oh, that's good.
Look forward to that.
Don't forget, it is a 5-week month this month.
Oh, is it? Oh. Yeah, but I'm behind on American Vampire, so that means I can do the second one. So I may not do 2 next week. I may do 2 the following week. I may just do 1 next week.
See how the weeks split up.
Yeah. But leads us on nicely to tell you what's coming next week. So coming out next week, we have The Flash 762. We have Action Comics 1025. We have Aquaman 63. Batgirl 49. Justice League Dark 26. Batman Superman 12. Shazam 15. Batman Beyond 47. Dark Knight's Death Metal Speed Metal issue 1. Suicide Squad issue 9. Books of Magic 23. The Last God number 9. And if you care, Looney Tunes 256. So that is all DC books out next week. So it's a healthy enough week. It hurts me so much that we're getting a whole super family reunion, but it's going to be with John Romita Jr. art. That is.
I don't remind me.
Brings my piss to a boil.
I'm very glad I don't have to read it.
You had to read Superman this month. But hey, we'll see what the patrons pick for you next month.
You're almost out of Red Hood, so guess who gets to go back and read Bend of Superman?
hey. So they might want me to keep reading Red Hood. The book's not ending.
I've had a pretty good run with people picking good books for me, although David did imply that maybe if Red Hood gets good, that he might switch to making me read something instead, which I'm not particularly... Because David will not give me something good. David will punish me.
Yeah.
He will hurt me.
Honestly, there's a chance that you might hate Animal Man.
I mean, I might, but I mean, I don't think at least there's a... I mean, I don't think that's been chosen out of cruelty.
No. Although, to be fair, from my memory of reading it quite a few years ago now, it doesn't start off that weird or Morrison-y. It's not until the last third of the run of the... I think it's 26 issues or so. It's not until that last third that it gets out there. If it eases me into it, I mean, I'm not... I'm not against it entirely. So look forward to that over the next couple of weeks. So there you go. That's what's coming next week. We got a healthy week of books to talk about next time, so that's cool. And I'd actually totally forgotten it was a 5-week month, to be honest. That didn't even occurred to me. We've still got a Justice League annual to come. We've got Batman 3 Jokers to come yet. Oh yeah, Superman annual. Yeah, there's a Wonder Woman that week as well. We got the Joker's Warzone one shot. There's tons still. It's actually quite a healthy 5th week, to be honest, which is nice. Did they a Legion? Apparently the Wonder Woman 1984 tie-in is coming out that week. Did they cancel? Yeah, good luck with that. Because they cancelled all the variant covers again and recently moved those to December. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. We will see. So, yeah. All right. Okay. We don't usually tell you what's coming the week after, but Connor decided to read almost the entire list of books that were coming in week 5. I actually didn't. I just pointed out the big ones that are still to come. That was most of the list. Most of the ones that we read in the show, anyway. That is just not true. I missed at least 3 major books that we read in the show. I'll be reading the Justice League annual. Technicalities. You know, it won't be? What is it? No, I will be. Oh, you will be? What is it? It's Venditti, and it's a murder mystery in the Hall of Justice. Oh, I remember that being solicited. Yeah. Okay. All right, I'll give that. And then Batman Superman annual. I try to cut annuals if I can, just for time. Yeah, is that still Williamson doing the annual on that? That's what I'm checking right now. So. Yeah. My. I'm trying to stall for Matt getting the answer, but it's taking a while. Yeah, because my internet's acting like an a-hole. It is, and it's Eagle Shum's on the art as well. Oh, there you go. Well, there's a few artists, but he's in there. Yeah, Clayton Crane too. Nice. Very nice. No. This is the Batmite and Mixapidalic. Well, there you go. So that sounds like fun. Sounds like a solid week 5 then, at least, which is cool. So there you go. That is the show. That is episode 219. So we'll be back next week for 220. I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers as of this recording. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Board Now, Al Tribesman, Christopher Moy, Brett Williams, and David Brown. They are all $20 or more on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV.
where you can go and support us for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your troubles. At the $5 tier in particular, you get early access to the show by a day, and that goes for previously in the multiverse as well. So go and have a look and see if you're interested. At the higher tiers, of course, you can make me or Connor read a book, but as some people do, obviously, that's what we were talking about earlier. So you can do that. You can also like and subscribe on YouTube. That's a big deal. Liking is a nice, easy and free way to show that you like the content and you want it to keep coming, and it helps us find more audience members. Same by rating and reviewing on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from, if you listen to the audio versions, of course. Many of you do. We have actually far more audio listeners we do video watchers, but that's fair. I mean, we're all ugly, so I mean, I think that's a fair life choice on your part. So, well, see, do you think if I just covered Connor's camera, they might more people might watch the video, Matt?
I very much doubt it. Still you there.
I mean, I might start watching.
I can watch
What's quite funny is when we record, because of where I have to have my camera situated, I can't actually see Pete right now. I can only see Matt. It's very nice.
Oh, I bet it's lovely. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, catch us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast as well. And we'll see you next time. If you want to send any questions to the email, which is mftvquestions@gmail.com. Not that we need them for next week, but if any get sent, we'll sort of let them tally up for next time we do have a quieter week for books. Please feel free to do so. But that's us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Nightwing rules ass.